Host lethargic cellular composition detected at over 99%. Basic criteria for a kept man are met. Bind system. Yes. Yes. Bind. Bind it right now. Leo Foster heard the voice in his head and agreed without a flicker of hesitation. If this had happened before his senior year, he might have feigned some self-respect and thought it over. But as a senior at Northwood State with no internship prospects, let alone a job, he was a lost cause. He had no connections, no skills, and no money. He was just another face in the crowd at a bottom-tier state school, with nothing to his name but his youth. He wasn't afraid of being a kept man. He was afraid he wouldn't even get the chance. To think he was some kind of chosen one. Leo figured all the bad luck of his life had been saved up for this single moment of fortune. After he agreed, the system went silent. For a long moment, Leo thought he'd hallucinated the whole thing. Then the voice returned. A qualified trophy husband must be a master of the house, from the living room to the kitchen. Host current aptitude is at the lowest possible tier. It is recommended the host begin intensive training. The following are mandatory courses: culinary arts, physical fitness, painting, floral arrangement, personal styling, home organization, accounting, nursing, infant care, vocal performance, makeup artistry, foreign languages. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. What the hell is all this? Leo asked, a sense of dread washing over him. Why would a system for mooching off rich women require all this? He felt like he'd been scammed. Only with a diverse skill set can one live off another with confidence and dignity. There are an additional 353 elective courses. It is recommended the host master at least 219 to achieve a basic qualification. Please apply yourself, host. Are you kidding me? If I knew how to do all that, why would I need to be a kept man? No way. I'm requesting to unbind the system. Right now, Leo said out loud. Voluntary unbinding is not supported. The system will unbind only upon the host's physical demise, the voice stated flatly. Please cooperate with the system and strive to become an exemplary trophy husband. May you find your ideal provider soon. Beep, 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 beep. Leo, dude, shut your alarm off. It's killing me, Sean, in the bunk across from him, grumbled, throwing a textbook that bounced off Leo's chest. Leo blinked his eyes open, utterly confused. His phone alarm was blaring. 6 a.m. Who in their right mind sets an alarm for 6? He couldn't remember the last time he'd been up this early. He let out a series of jaw-cracking yawns before finally slapping the snooze button. The voice in his head chimed in. Based on the host's aptitude, the system has formulated a reasonable study schedule. Please adhere to it strictly. Leo was about to lose his mind. The voice had been nagging him all night, going on about how a proper kept man needed a healthy sleep schedule and that all-nighters were bad for his skin. He'd reluctantly quit his League of Legends match at 2 a.m., which for him was practically calling it an early night, especially with no classes today. Now, it was waking him up at 6? What part of this was reasonable? He shut his eyes, determined to go back to sleep, but even with his eyes closed, a glowing progress bar materialized in his mind's eye. 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., morning routine. Drink a glass of warm water with lemon. A healthy gut for a happy day. The bar pulsed with light, a persistent, annoying glow that gave him a headache, even through his eyelids. Sleep was impossible. He gave up and rolled out of bed. The squeak of his bed frame earned him another pillow to the head, this time from Jordan in the adjacent bunk. Leo, are you insane? He was starting to think so. Like a zombie. He grabbed his toiletries and shuffled toward the communal bathroom at the end of the hall. This was Northwood State, not the Ritz. The bathrooms and showers were shared by the whole floor. Every other door was shut, the hallway silent. A splash of cold water on his face and a 2-minute toothbrushing session, and he was done. As for the lemon water, what college guy's dorm room would have that? But the damn words kept flashing in his head, persistent as an unread notification badge on his phone. He vaguely remembered buying a bottle of lemon juice for a barbecue with the girls from the dorm next door last year. It had to be somewhere. Leo crouched down and started rummaging under his bed, earning a few more grumbled psycho as from his roommates. He finally found it, buried in a pile of old sneakers, a nearly evaporated, sticky bottle of lemon concentrate. He took it to the bathroom, rinsed it off, and opened the cap. It didn't smell rotten. He squeezed a generous amount into a cup, added some hot water from Sean's electric kettle, stirred it, and choked it down. The glowing text in his forehead finally vanished. A wave of relief washed over him, and was immediately replaced by a new line of text. 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., morning run. A healthy body leads to a clear mind, ignites ambition, and maintains a positive mental state. Leo wanted to scream. He'd finally made it to senior year, free from the torture of Ada M classes, and now this? He practically vibrated with frustration, which prompted a barrage of incoming books, clothes, and even a stray sock from his still sleeping roommates. Defeated, he slipped out of the room. The moment he stepped outside the dorm, a blast of cold morning air hit his nostrils, snapping his brain to attention. After a few steps, he had to admit, wasn't so bad. It felt like he'd been given a secret head start on the day, an extra piece of his own life. He was 21, with average looks, and standing at 5'8", though a couple of inserts in his shoes could push him to a respectable 5'11". The campus was nearly empty. He started a slow jog, and it felt surprisingly good. He picked up the pace. The academic buildings, the dorms, the basketball courts, they all receded behind him. The wind itself seemed to have a different scent, crisper and cleaner than usual, waking up parts of his brain that had been dormant for years. He ran until his legs burned and his body screamed at him to stop, but his mind, for once, wanted to keep going. His lifestyle had been garbage. Ever since failing to land an internship last winter break, he'd given up, retreating into a world of all-night gaming sessions. But now, as he ran, the stagnant pool of his mind felt a little ripple of life. Maybe I'll get up early tomorrow, too, he thought. No more gaming. I'll delete League and Fortnite, polish my resume, and actually start applying for jobs. Something's got to stick. With that thought, the run didn't feel so agonizing anymore. Just then, the voice in his head piped up again. Target detected 500 meters from host. A 24-karat gold-level single woman. Net worth, $2. 19 million. Intellect, 86 out of 100. Appearance, upper tier, 78 out of 100. Host, please perform admirably. Go for it. Leo's eyes widened. Well, damn. This useless system actually has some features. A second ago, he was about to collapse. Now, he was surging with a new kind of energy. Over $2 million? And smart? Who cared about looks? He'd take a 50, let alone a 78. He felt like Superman, his legs pumping with renewed vigor. He sprinted forward, seeing a figure walking toward him, getting closer and closer. It was an old woman in a white tracksuit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses attached to a delicate gold chain, shuffling along at a leisurely pace. Seeing the student running toward her, the old woman stopped. Well now, isn't it, young Leo? It's good to see a young man up so early for a run. Excellent. Morning, Professor Reed. Just getting some air, Leo managed to say, his mind a complete blank. Professor Reed was a retired professor from Yale whom the university had hired to teach calculus. She was notoriously strict and always impeccably dressed. Leo only knew her because he'd had to retake her class twice, which had unfortunately made his face memorable. After she had passed, Leo finally asked the system, "Care to explain that?" Evelyn Reed. Net worth, $2. 19 million. Intellect, 86 out of 100. Appearance, upper tier, 78 out of 100. Age, 69. Widowed for 7 years. Health, excellent. Follows a strict wellness regimen and is projected to live at least another 32 years. Based on the host's previous lifestyle habits, your projected lifespan is 29 more years. She could outlive you and attend your funeral. Leo was speechless. Leaving the 69-year-old golden bachelorette behind, Leo kept running. He never would have imagined that the first meal ticket fate served him would be so vintage. He remembered having to go to Professor Reed's office for some study materials for his retake. On her desk was a glass of bubbly liquid, and for a second, he thought she was drinking a Sprite. Then the bubbles subsided, revealing 2 sets of dentures floating inside. With perfect composure, Professor Reed had picked them up, slotted the bottom set in, then the top, and transformed back into a smiling old woman with impeccably white, even teeth. Even if he could get past the dentures, calculus was just too damn hard. The image of a denture-wearing Professor Reed whispering sweet nothings in his ear. Honey, if the function y equals f, u is differentiable at u, and the function u equals g, x, is differentiable at x, is the composite function y equals f, g, x, differentiable at x, sent a cold sweat down his spine. The thought alone was terrifying. He ran for a while longer before the goosebumps finally subsided. On second thought, the damn system was pretty impressive. At the very least, it could detect potential sugar mamas within a 500-meter radius, listing their assets, intelligence, looks, age, no object. It was practically handing him a target list. That was a decent feature. With that in mind, he felt he could run a little more. A big campus like this couldn't be filled with only old ladies, right? Without thinking, Leo started jogging in the direction of the women's dorms. Halfway there, He felt like a total creep for lurking around the girls' dorms at the crack of dawn and turned back. A classic move for a socially awkward shut-in. Grand ambitions, followed by immediate retreat. But on his way back, he saw her. A genuine beauty. Walking toward him was Chloe Preston, the unofficial queen of the neighboring finance department. She was carrying a Chanel bag that, rumor had it, cost more than his entire semester's living expenses. Chloe was famously aloof and impossible to get, and as far as anyone knew, she was single. Her family was local, and her dad was the manager of the main Marybank branch downtown. Leo knew all this because he was a card-carrying, if silent, member of her fan club. They were about to pass each other, and the system was completely silent. What's wrong? Leo couldn't help but ask it. Is she out of my league? System analysis complete. Chloe Preston has been in a committed relationship for 3 years. A kept man with integrity only targets single, wealthy women. You do not qualify. Leo felt a pang of something he couldn't name. In the brief moment Chloe walked past him, it all clicked. It was the crack of dawn, and the department queen was walking back to her dorm from outside campus. The hem of her white dress was slightly wrinkled, just like his heart. Wrinkled. She didn't acknowledge him. He didn't acknowledge her. He just kept running and running. A few old men were doing stretches in the campus park. A group of older women was in the middle of a morning Zumba class. Another group across the lawn was doing their own workout. The guy at the breakfast taco truck was firing up his griddle. A vendor was spraying water on crates of fresh vegetables. He felt like he was about to die. His legs felt like they didn't belong to him anymore, too heavy to lift. The text in his head was still flashing. 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m., morning run. A healthy body leads to a clear mind, ignites ambition, and maintains a positive mental state. It had only been 30 minutes. How was it not over yet? It was too much. He wanted to stop. Then he remembered the system's grim prognosis. He only had 29 years left. At 21, that meant he'd be dead at 50 to 19 years younger than Professor Reed was right now. Another shiver ran down his spine. Run. Keep running. More people started to appear on the campus paths. The system remained silent, and even if it spoke, he was determined to ignore it. This was prime time for professors to get their morning exercise, and he couldn't handle another 70-year-old prospect. Leo didn't know how he finished. The last stretch was a blur of numb, mechanical movement. He just kept lifting his legs, waiting for the flashing text in his vision to fade and disappear. The instant it vanished, he collapsed onto the grass of the main quad. He felt like he was about to check out. So, unbelievably, tired. A 30-minute run felt like hours. He lay there on his back, staring up at a sky that was painfully blue and clouds that were painfully white. He was panting, his throat raw. He needed to remember to bring water next time. As he thought this, the voice in his head returned. Congratulations, host, on completing your first fitness task. A strong physique is the foundation of a successful kept man. Keep up the good work. I can't. I'm done. Leo gasped, sounding like a dying dog. I don't want this stupid life. Although the host's aptitude is poor, your perseverance is commendable. The system has applied a beginner-level item, the time dilation buff. Effect enhances workout efficiency, also known as a time expander. Your 30-minute run had the physical load and benefit of a 120-minute run, which is why you are experiencing extreme fatigue. This beginner-level item grants the host 4 times the efficiency to accelerate your journey to becoming a qualified trophy husband. Leo was stunned. He thought his body was just that pathetic. Turns out he'd basically run for 2 hours straight. This was insane. Now that it mentioned it, even his arms were cramping from swinging them so hard. He couldn't even lift them. A light breeze blew over him, and his sweaty skin instantly felt cold, especially his legs. The inside of his thighs felt chilly. Leo looked at his hands, then glanced down between his legs, a thought slowly forming. He asked, a little sheepishly, that time dilation thing can be used anytime? Like for, you know. He made a little up and down motion with his hand, a strange grin spreading across his flushed face. The system was silent for a moment before replying. Excessive self-pleasuring leads to ruin. Leo, son of a bitch. The morning air was crisp and cool. Lying on the grass, Leo felt like a complete idiot for actually letting this system trick him into running. If he ever listened to it again, he was a dog. As a reward for the host's first diligent completion of a system-assigned task, the host will have 1 scar removed. An exemplary trophy husband must possess a flawless, unblemished body. Please continue to strive for excellence. I've been saving myself for 21 years, Leo thought bitterly. I don't have any scars. He pulled out his phone and opened the horrifying front-facing camera. The screen showed a guy with a face full of blackheads. Then he saw it. On his left eyebrow, from a bike crash when he was a kid, was a small scar that created a permanent gap in the hair. He usually hid it with his bangs, but lying down, his hair was a mess, revealing the shortened brow. Right before his eyes, the scar began to fade. New hair sprouted, filling the gap, making his eyebrows perfectly symmetrical. It was miraculous, better than any microblading job. He stared in astonishment, suddenly feeling like the ugly guy in the camera wasn't quite so ugly anymore. His face looked more balanced. He was so shocked, he let out a single, involuntary woof. Immediately, a new line of text appeared before him. 7:00 a.m., 8 a.m., eat breakfast. Reduces the risk of gallstones and kidney stones. A man without stones is a healthy man. Leo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Do I have stones? Analysis indicates the host's body is in a sub-healthy state. You currently have 46 stones, 2 standard, 3 small, and 41 pre-small stones. Leo, who had been about to sit up, staggered and fell right back down. Work hard, host, and you may receive the beginner-level item, Egg versus Rock. Effect. For every egg consumed, the host will expel 1 stone. A man without stones is a healthy man. Keep it up. Leo shivered again. He finally managed to get to his feet and head off to find food. He walked, trembling, to Student Street, a strip of cheap eateries just off campus. There was a place there that made legendary breakfast bowls. He was usually never awake early enough to get one. They always sold out by mid-morning. He used to think that if there was one thing he'd miss after graduation, it would be this place. Or, more accurately, the owner's daughter. She was fair-skinned and well-endowed. The little hole-in-the-wall spot didn't even have a proper sign, but the smell was intoxicating. He couldn't resist asking the system, does eating get the time dilation buff? Overeating is detrimental to the stomach and leads to weight gain. Obesity is the greatest enemy of a kept man. Use of the item during meals is not recommended. Leo sighed. He walked up to the counter where the owner's daughter was working. Hey, can I get 1 breakfast bowl with the works? Sausage, bacon, home fries, peppers, mushrooms, shredded cheese, and... What's that? That's brisket. And these are shrimp. Add those too, Leo said, feeling like a king. The young woman smiled. You're looking sharp this morning. That'll be $24. Leo scanned the QR code to pay, a little thrill running through him. Did fixing my eyebrow really make me handsomer? After devouring the massive, deluxe yacht-sized breakfast bowl, he finally felt human again. Since he was out so early, he bought 3 plain bowls, no extras for the animals back in his dorm room. It was barely past 7, and the streets were still quiet. At a bottom-tier school like this, not many people were serious students. The only ones up this early were the grad school hopefuls, or maybe, like Chloe Preston, girls coming back to change out of last night's dress. Walking back, it occurred to Leo that he'd completed 3 tasks but only gotten 1 reward. Hey, no rewards for waking up and eating? He asked the system. After a long pause, the flat voice returned. In light of the host's proactive completion of tasks, and to encourage the host's rapid development into an exemplary kept man, the system awards the removal of 2 additional scars. Leo pulled out his phone again, studying his face in the selfie camera. No change. Where'd you remove them from? The host had 2 small scars on the upper part of his left buttock. The system has removed them, restoring your left buttock to its pristine, unblemished state. Leo had to fight the sudden urge to reach back and check. He vaguely remembered falling on a rock when he was a kid, jumping off a pile of sand. It had bled, but who cares about scars on their ass? And how the hell could the system see his butt? Feeling like he'd been struck by lightning, he returned to the dorm. The animals were still asleep. He set down the food and stared blankly at the new line of text flashing in his vision. 8:00 a.m., 9 a.m., study English. Learning is the ladder of human progress. The more you learn, the more rungs you have on your ladder, allowing you to easily climb into the presence of a wealthy woman. It was the most materialistic justification for education he'd ever heard. Leo dug out his English textbook from a dusty corner, slung his backpack over his shoulder, and headed for the library. He was still a student, after all. Might as well get to it. With a newfound sense of purpose, Leo marched toward the library, feeling strangely righteous at the thought of studying. It was the typical cowardice of a college senior, terrified of the real world, yet terrified of wasting time. So, you study, whether it's too late or not. He decided on the periodical reading room. It was quieter there. The morning sun bathed the library in a warm, beautiful light. The golden letters over the entrance read, "Books are the ladder of human progress." He walked up the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. and opened his junior year English textbook. It was pristine, unfamiliar, but for the first time in ages, he was actually able to focus. His natural talent was average at best, but he remembered a teacher once telling him that a dull pencil is better than a sharp memory. He took out a pen and began copying the text. Carefully, stroke by stroke, he wrote. The anxious, floating feeling in his chest began to settle, grounding him. After waking up early, running, and eating a solid breakfast, he felt like he had a strong body and an active mind. Learning suddenly felt easy. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the boy's straight, tall posture. The line of text in front of him was now clear, bright, and gentle. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Study English. Learning is the ladder of human progress. You can do it. The clock on the reading room wall showed 8:41 a.m. Leo was still writing. The vocabulary in his junior year English book was mostly SAT level. Impress, verb, to make a strong effect on someone. Strict, adjective, demanding that rules are obeyed. Loudly, adverb, in a way that makes a lot of noise. He mumbled the words to himself as his hand moved nonstop across the page. Without realizing it, he'd already filled several pages of his notebook. There was no immediate payoff to studying, but it felt solid, calming. It wasn't like playing video games or scrolling through TikTok, where he'd be laughing on the outside, but feeling a vague sense of anxiety underneath. Mornings really were the most productive time. He felt like he'd been studying for ages, and in a way he had, but his brain wasn't tired. On the contrary, he was filled with a passion for learning. The sun had crept from his back across the desk. After finishing a page of vocabulary, he paused, twirling his pen. It dropped after a couple of rotations. He picked it up and started again, reading the page over twice more before turning to the next one. The clock hands moved, finally reaching 9:00. Leo let out a long breath, slumping back in his chair. His hand was numb, and he was thirsty. Congratulations, host. With the use of the time dilation buff, you have completed the English study task. This is equivalent to 4 hours of effective study. A great building rises from a solid foundation. To become a kept man on your own merits, it is never too late to learn. Keep up the good work. Leo's mind was a complete blank, the same way he felt after a long, exhausting session. He was too tired to even talk back or complain. The voice continued. For completing a study task for the first time with such excellent performance, the host is rewarded with a beginner-level vocal clarity buff 1 day. Effect. Hearing you speak one sentence will make people want to hear the next. Was there something wrong with my voice before? Leo couldn't help but retort. The host's original voice was high-pitched, with unstable breath control, awkward transitions, and a lack of confidence in the final syllables. Every sentence you spoke sounded like you were second-guessing yourself, making it difficult to hold anyone's attention. The host can also train his voice by recording himself, listening to the playback, and practicing corrections. A qualified kept man must have a pleasant and engaging voice. Keep it up, host. Leo was speechless. It made so much sense, yet it felt so insulting. What normal person practices speaking like that? Being a kept man was clearly harder than it looked. A new progress bar appeared. 9:00 a.m. 9:30 a.m. Eat yogurt and fruit. Work-life balance is a fundamental principle for any qualified kept man. This counts as a task. For some reason, Leo felt a wave of grateful bliss. He decided to check out a book before getting his snack. At the second-floor circulation desk, a middle-aged man sat behind the counter. Leo handed him his student ID. "Excuse me, sir. I'd like to check out a book." The sound of his own voice startled him. It was still his voice, but how to describe it? His breath felt solid, his tone confident, not the least bit hesitant. The man looked up. "What was that? Could you say it again?" "I'd like to check out a book." "Right this way," the librarian said enthusiastically, taking his ID and scanning it. Leo had only taken a few steps into the stacks when the man followed him. "What kind of book are you looking for, son? I can help you find it." "Oh, just something in the social sciences section is fine," Leo said quickly, seeing the sign right in front of him. Normally, a sentence like that would have come out flustered and uncertain, but with the buff, it was perfectly articulated and self-assured. "Well, this is it. Have a look around. If you can't find it, you can always use the computer catalog by the entrance." "Okay, thank you, sir." "So, what's your major?" the librarian asked, lingering. "Information management." "What year?" "Class of 18. "Oh, your department head, Professor Liu. I know her well." "You're from around here?" "Oh, the apple orchards out in Cy County are beautiful this time of year." Leo found himself inexplicably deep in conversation. By the time he realized what was happening, that after every sentence he spoke, the librarian seemed desperate to hear the next. It was too late. He quickly shut his mouth and pretended to be intensely focused on the books. The librarian finally took the hint and walked away. Leo was floored. System, explain. Vocal clarity buff, one day. Effect. Hearing you speak one sentence will make people want to hear the next. Has the host never been listened to with such focus before? Is it making you uncomfortable? An exemplary kept man must be brave enough to speak, to state his desires, and to have them met. Please practice speaking more. He lived for 21 years and was only just now learning he didn't know how to talk. He grabbed a random book, Gut, the inside story of our body's most underrated organ, which was definitely not a social science book, and headed for the checkout. He handed it to the librarian, gave him a small smile, and bolted. Time for yogurt and fruit. He walked out of the library and found a convenience store. A yogurt was $3.50. The pre-cut fruit platters came in 3 price tiers. Cherry tomatoes and cucumbers for $6, apples and bananas for $8, and dragon fruit and pineapple $4.10. He never usually ate this stuff. It felt too girly. His roommate, Jordan, loved it, though. He took the yogurt and the tomato and cucumber platter to the counter. A young girl with a round face and freckles was busy stocking hot dogs on the roller grill. He cleared his throat. Excuse me, I'd like to pay. The girl immediately looked up, her eyes wide. What did you say? Can you say that again? Leo just sighed and held up his items. After finishing the yogurt and fruit, an old acne scar on Leo's chin vanished. A new progress bar appeared. 9:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Reading. Books are the tools for constructing a soul. Victor Hugo. A handsome face is a dime a dozen, but an interesting soul is 1 in a million. An exemplary kept man must possess an interesting soul. Read more, scroll less. Leo glanced at the book he'd just checked out. Gut, the inside story of our body's most underrated organ. He was supposed to make his soul more interesting by reading this. Luckily, the book was filled with fun illustrations. If he'd actually grabbed some dense social science text about the state and society, he probably would have short-circuited by now. After a snack, he wandered for a bit before heading back into the library's periodical reading room. He sat down and took out the colorfully covered Gut. Before he could even open it, his hand instinctively reached for his phone. An idle mind is the devil's playground. He was about to open a game when he remembered it was reading time and quickly put the phone away. He opened the book. He'd barely read the first heading in the foreword when he picked up his phone again. It was buzzing. He opened his messages to see his roommates had sent him the money for the breakfast bowls. He accepted the transfers and then, out of habit, opened his Instagram feed. The first post was an ad for wireless earbuds. The second was from a girl in his class, Megan, posting a selfie hugging a giant teddy bear. The wall behind her was warped from the aggressive photo editing. She'd probably shaved a good 30 pounds off her real-life self, turning her 5-foot, 130-pound frame into a 90-pound waif. He gave a sympathy like. His roommate Sean had a massive crush on her, and sure enough, Sean's comment was already there. So pretty smiling face with hard eyes. He was about to keep scrolling when he noticed the line of text in his vision flashing violently. It was like sitting in one of those massage chairs at the mall that blasts ads on a loop until you feed it money. The progress bar was his personal looping ad, and the only way to make it stop was to do the task. He silently put his phone away. Time to read. For real this time. To be honest, he hadn't sat down to quietly read a book since freshman year. Actually, who was he kidding? He hadn't really studied at all in college. He didn't know why. He just felt restless, unable to focus. His bottom-tier state school had a joint college program that shared some classes. Those students had lower test scores, but paid a fortune in tuition, something like $17,000 a semester, while his was just over $3,000. Their annual tuition could cover his entire 4 years with money to spare. As freshmen, his friends had looked down on the joint college kids as rich dumbass, feeling a natural sense of academic superiority. But by sophomore and junior year, they noticed something strange. Most of the girls in their classes were dating guys from the joint college. By senior year, it was a total rout. The joint college kids mostly came from well-off families, so landing internships was a piece of cake. Their confidence was shattered. It left a bitter, confusing taste in his mouth. He'd wasted 3 years in that funk, rarely having a quiet moment to himself with a book. Looking at the title now, he couldn't help but chuckle. The one time he tries to better himself, and this is what he picks. Oh well, at least it was an easy read. Reading for pleasure was way faster than studying English. The book was genuinely fascinating. The more he read, the more he got into it. Our saliva contains a painkiller more powerful than morphine, a substance that wasn't discovered until 2006 and was named opioorphin. He felt like he was leveling up his brain. He remembered his mom putting saliva on his scrapes as a kid. He always thought it was just a comforting gesture, but it turned out to be scientifically sound. Saliva was a disinfectant, so drooling in your sleep could actually prevent bad breath. The reason so many people wake up with morning breath or a sore throat is that saliva production stops overnight, letting bacteria have a party. That's why brushing before bed and after waking up is so important. Leo was having a blast, diving into an ocean of knowledge. Every gulp was packed with nutrients. Bad breath can also be caused by your tonsils. If you cleaned your tongue and teeth but still have bad breath, check your tonsils. They can hide super stinky little stones. Removing them can eliminate bad breath in seconds. His roommate, Jordan, was a motor mouth, but his breath was an experience. Whenever Jordan talked, Leo had to take a step back. Maybe you should tell Jordan to try this. Leo cupped his hand over his mouth and exhaled. Not bad, but it smelled vaguely of cherry tomatoes. He kept reading, even taking notes in a notebook since he couldn't write in a library book. His brain was filling up with all sorts of useless, fascinating trivia. Consuming Lactobacillus casei shirota, a common bacteria found in yogurt, for 3 weeks led to a third of test subjects reporting an improved mood, shifting from sad to happy. It was the kind of bacteria found in any regular yogurt from the supermarket. Suddenly, that yogurt and fruit task felt incredibly sophisticated. When the library clock hit 10:30, the progress bar slowly faded. Leo was surprised to find he didn't want to stop. He was even looking at the bibliography in the back, curious about the other books referenced. He felt energized, exhilarated, like he was infinitely smarter than the man he was yesterday. He was exhausted, but it was the satisfying exhaustion that comes after a good workout. The host has proactively and enthusiastically completed the reading task. As a reward, the host will receive a random bonus from the book, Fresh Breath Perk, one day. Congratulations on taking another step toward becoming an exemplary kept man. Now, whenever you speak, you will have the pleasant aroma of roasted peanuts. You no longer have to worry about bad breath, even after eating garlic and onions before a kiss. Leo blinked. He breathed into his hand again. Sure enough, there was a distinct, crispy scent of roasted peanuts. What if the other person is allergic to peanuts? The host need not worry about such hypotheticals. Once you have experienced a real kiss, you will understand. The aroma of peanuts will not trigger an allergic reaction. If the other person is allergic to peanuts, it means they cannot eat them, but they almost certainly wish they could. The host will be a good person who allows them to experience the joy of peanuts without the allergic reaction. Leo pulled out his phone and typed a message into his class group chat. Anyone here allergic to peanuts? The senior class group chat was mostly dead. It had been lively freshman year, when everyone was still trying to hook up. By sophomore year, most people had paired off. Junior year saw a reshuffling. Senior year was the great breakup. After a long silence, Leo's roommate Sean replied, I might be. I got a pimple on my chin after eating peanuts once. Sean was probably just replying out of pity, so his roommate wouldn't be left hanging. Thanks, man, Leo thought. The idea of kissing and getting a pimple. Ugh. No, the point wasn't the pimple, it was Sean. Ugh, ugh, ugh. A new progress bar appeared. 10:30 a.m., 11:30 a.m., swimming. The best sport for body sculpting and improving lung capacity. It will also put you in a great mood. Host, it's time to shamelessly display your assets. This is one of the top 10 locations for finding a provider. Their university had a swimming pool, a generous donation from the well-funded joint college program. But Leo hated swimming. Wearing swim trunks felt practically naked. It was just embarrassing. Today, however, Leo decided to challenge himself. On a normal day, he'd probably just be waking up now, starting to produce saliva to deal with his morning breath. But today, with the system breaking his time into manageable chunks, it felt like he had an infinite amount of it. Leo walked to the aquatic center. The pro shop by the entrance sold swim trunks and goggles. He bought the cheapest trunks for $14 and a slightly pricier pair of goggles, $4.26. He was nearsighted, 20 to 101 eye and 20 to 150 in the other, which was another reason he disliked swimming. Without prescription goggles, he was half blind. In the locker room, he stood in front of a large mirror, twisting to check out his backside. Sure enough, the scars were gone. His butt was smooth and pale. A guy walking past shot him a look like he was some kind of pervert. Leo ignored it. He pulled on his trunks and walked out of the locker room, just as a girl was exiting the women's locker room next door. He caught a glimpse of a flashy, colorful swimsuit, but didn't dare look closely. He felt her eyes on him and quickly walked away, a chill running down his spine. He kept his head up and marched straight ahead, so nervous he almost slipped on the wet tiles. He knew how to swim, but his form was atrocious, a frantic doggy paddle that relied on brute force to move through the water. One lap, and he was usually dead tired. It was definitely a workout. Leo walked to a ladder at the edge of the pool, about to get in, but then a girl in a bikini walked over. A real bikini, with triangular bottoms. He saw a flash of a pale stomach, didn't dare look at her chest, and definitely didn't dare look any lower. Panicked, he did the only thing he could think of. He jumped into the pool with a huge splash. The water was freezing. Goosebumps erupted all over his skin. The splash he made soaked the girl. "Are you psycho?" she yelled, assuming he'd done on purpose. Her voice was sharp and clear, much nicer to listen to than his roommates yelling. Once in the water, Leo felt a sense of security, enveloped by the pool. He bobbed up and bravely yelled back, "Sorry, so sorry." The water was ridiculously cold. Leo glanced at his waterproof Casio watch. It was finally getting some use. It was already 11:00. 30 minutes to go. He dunked his head under the water and started moving. Leo had countless flaws, but one of his few virtues was that once he started something, he saw it through. Whether he'd be back tomorrow was anyone's guess, but he was going to finish today. After he'd thrashed his way through one lap, the usually silent system spoke up. "Activating virtual swim coach overlay. Please correct your swimming posture, breathing, and points of force application. Work smart, not just hard, host. Keep it up." To his amazement, dotted lines appeared in the water around him, showing him when he veered off course. He felt a gentle pressure against his legs when he kicked incorrectly. When he corrected his form, the pressure vanished. It was incredible. He kept swimming, constantly adjusting his form. His movements became smoother, more fluid. It was easier than before, faster yet less tiring. He felt like he'd suddenly unlocked a hidden skill. When the progress bar finally disappeared, he was disappointed. He didn't want to stop. With the time dilation buff, his training time was effectively quadrupled. It felt like cheating, and it suited him perfectly. He wasn't a genius, but if he could just grind and put in more time than anyone else, he could get things done without feeling like an imposter. He was so tired, he could only hum as he sat on the steps at the edge of the pool. Several girls in swimsuits walked past, their hips swaying, but he watched them with a calm detachment. He was too exhausted to even worry about any unexpected reactions in his swim trunks. He couldn't have gotten up if he'd tried. The host has proactively completed the system-assigned training task and exceeded expectations. As a reward, the host will receive a growth of 1 millimeter, applicable to any part of the body. Leo marveled again. This damn system had its moments. Without a second of hesitation, he said, "Height. I choose height. Add 1 millimeter. Is the host certain?" This decision cannot be reversed. Most individuals choose to apply this to specific anatomical regions. "I'm certain," Leo said firmly. "I'm single. What difference does an extra millimeter make when I'm just playing with myself?" System, specific regions refer to eyes, eyelashes, fingers. Now a man of 5'8", 1 inches, Leo walked out with the confidence of someone 6 feet tall. After the swim, his body was exhausted, but his spirits were soaring. He felt invigorated, like the world was his for the taking. Exercise felt amazing, but the rewards were even better. System, what happens when all my scars are gone? What's the next reward? The host need not worry. From head to toe, the host has a total of 233 imperfections, including but not limited to scars, acne marks, dark spots, and enlarged pores. Please continue to complete your tasks diligently to achieve a flawless, unblemished body, become an exemplary kept man, and reach the pinnacle of life. Leo had no words. At this point, he was actually eager for the next task. The progress bar now seemed almost friendly. 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., eat lunch. A full lunch provides energy for the whole day. After a morning of hard work, seeing a task as simple as eat felt like a gift. He'd spent more money than usual today, so for lunch, he headed to the university cafeteria. The food was mediocre, but it was cheap and filling. He got 3 servings of rice, 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetable dishes, and a soup, all $4.15. $50, enough food for 3 people normally. He scraped his plate clean, then got 2 takeout boxes for Sean and Jordan. Alex was out somewhere. He returned to the dorm room and was hit by a wall of funk, a mixture of stale food and smelly feet that he'd never really noticed before. Maybe all the exercise had sharpened his senses. He immediately opened the windows and the door to get some air circulating. Sean and Jordan were deep in a video game, sitting at their respective computers, too engrossed to notice him. Leo had just sat down when a new progress bar appeared. 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Tidy and organize. An essential skill for any good husband and father. A clean and orderly environment brings joy for the whole day. Leo felt a headache coming on. Everyone in the dorm was lazy. Sean, the oldest at 23, was the most responsible, but he only cleaned when the filth reached critical levels. Activating beginner-level organization buff. Target: living environment. Tidy, tidy, clean, clean for a brand new you. What woman could resist? Don't lie to me, Leo thought. I've been single for 21 years. But with the buff active, he felt a strange compulsion. His hands started moving on their own. First, the trash. Takeout containers, plastic bags, and used tissues were everywhere. Sean and Jordan finished their game and started eating, sharing the dishes Leo had brought. Jordan held his cup with a pinky delicately extended while Sean chugged his drink. They both stared at Leo, the youngest in the room, as if he'd lost his mind. Was he having a breakdown? Sean propped his phone up and started recording Leo's possessed cleaning frenzy. A dorm cleanup? He had to send this to Alex, and he needed proof to show Leo later what a maniac he was being. Leo ignored his roommates, focused on the task at hand. He sorted books, folded blankets, and organized clothes by type. He was meticulous. In the frame of Sean's phone camera, Leo's hair was a medium length, his features not classically handsome, but neat and clean. He worked with a quiet, focused intensity. The mess in their dorm was biblical. Shoes and socks were everywhere. He found a year-old jar of honey and some barbecue skewers. Piles of clothes, books, cups, a cracked bowl, and empty soda bottles littered every surface. One corner even had moss growing on it. Leo carefully scraped the moss off with a knife, placed it in the cracked bowl, and arranged it into a surprisingly artistic little bonsai. Watching someone organize is deeply satisfying, turning chaos into order. The video looked like a time-lapse. Wash basins and buckets were stacked neatly, toothbrushes all facing the same direction. Clothes were arranged by color, from light to dark. Books were categorized. It wasn't like watching a cleaning show set in a fancy apartment. Those places are already halfway there. This was a grimy, 20-something square meter dorm room with 4 bunk beds for desks, for closets, and a mountain of stuff. At first, Sean was just filming passively while he ate. But as he watched, he found himself captivated by the transformation. He finished his food and started following Leo around, actively filming. Jordan felt too awkward to play another game and couldn't figure out how to help. So he just took out the trash. Good Lord, they filled 20 trash bags. Like a magician, Leo remade their dorm. Everything had its place, easy to find, aesthetically pleasing. A photo taken from the doorway would have looked like a promotional picture for a model dorm. It was incredibly calming. It was still full of stuff, but it wasn't messy. It was a paradise for anyone with OCD. When it was all done, Leo went to the bathroom to wash his face. He looked up and saw Sean was still filming him. He flicked some water at him. Get lost. Don't use your girl-chasing tricks on me. Sean grinned and put his phone away. Dude, I swear, you look really handsome on camera, and your voice sounds amazing. I'm swooning. Leo just rolled his eyes. He was completely drained. He went back to his bed and collapsed, and within moments he was snoring. The progress bar in his head was glowing with a soft, warm light. 1:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Afternoon nap. A nap in the afternoon keeps your spirits high all day. Sean and Jordan stared at the instantly asleep Leo, wondering what could have possessed him. The door now felt brand new, almost cozy. They found themselves moving carefully, feeling like it was wrong to play video games in such a nice environment. They took a bunch of pictures and sent them to Alex, who was equally stunned. Is this really our room? Sean sent a picture of the sleeping Leo to their group chat. Look, he passed out as soon as he was done. You don't think something happened at home, do you? I haven't heard anything, Jordan replied. Alex sent a head-shaking emoji. But dude, all that practice taking videos for girls has paid off. You even made Leo look handsome. His voice sounds great, and even his sleeping pose is epic. When I get back, you have to do a shoot for me. I'll post it on TikTok. Miju. Jordan chimed in. Sean, get lost. Lying on his bed, Sean scrolled through the photos and videos he'd taken. They did look pretty good, surprisingly satisfying, especially the before and after shots. Sean was a professional suck-up, a self-proclaimed simp for every cute girl he met. He'd spent 4 years of college learning how to edit videos for them, while completely ignoring his actual major. Now, feeling a spark of inspiration, he sat up and started editing the footage together. It actually looked pretty good. He had a TikTok account. He typed out a caption, "My roommate is a literal god." Hashtag organization hacks, hashtag clean talk, paired it with the video he'd just cut and posted it. It was the same kind of edit he made for girls. Quick cuts of Leo organizing, close-ups of his focused expression, shots of him working, washing his face, sleeping, all juxtaposed with the dramatic before and after of the room. He posted it, and, hearing Leo's snores, felt himself getting sleepy. He lay down and dozed off. Jordan did the same, but not before putting on a face mask. At that moment, room 402 was quiet, clean, and peaceful. On the desk by the window, the moss in the cracked bowl was a vibrant green, a small testament to the fact that nothing is useless, just sometimes in the wrong place. At 2 p.m., Leo's phone alarm went off right on schedule. He opened his eyes. He'd slept for half an hour, which, with the time dilation buff, was equivalent to 2 hours. The intense physical activity had knocked him out cold, finally letting him catch up on the sleep he'd lost to gaming the night before. Now his mind felt exceptionally clear. Looking at the new progress bar, he felt a sense of calm anticipation. 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Study accounting. A man who can balance the books is the most charming of all. What wealthy woman wouldn't want to support a cute partner who understands finances? Aside from the ridiculous commentary, Leo actually appreciated the schedule. Most of the time, it wasn't that he didn't want to try, it was that he didn't know how to try. He dug out his freshman and sophomore year accounting textbooks. He hadn't taken a class since then and had probably forgotten everything. He'd originally planned to study in the dorm. Now that it was clean, it was a pleasant space. But his bed was right there, his computer was right there, and his phone was plugged in right there. The temptations to play a game, take another nap, or mindlessly scroll were too strong. He quietly grabbed his backpack and left. His 2 roommates were still snoring away, recovering from their own late night. Leo found an empty classroom near his dorm. The afternoons were quiet on campus. Rows of empty desks, bright windows looking out onto a large, leafy tree. It was a picturesque scene. Leo had never really noticed the beauty of the campus or the classrooms before. Last winter break, he'd stayed with his cousin for a few days while looking for an internship. His cousin was the family's golden boy, great job, great salary, went to a top-tier university, the whole package. Leo had always admired him. But when he saw where his cousin lived, a cramped, smelly basement apartment with a window that faced a grimy alley and barely let in any light, he was shocked. His cousin was always exhausted, leaving before sunrise and coming home long after dark. Leo lasted a week before he fled back home. Later, at the New Year's family dinner, listening to everyone praise his smartly dressed cousin, Leo felt a pang of pity and couldn't look him in the eye. He chose a seat by the window where he could look out at the big tree. He opened his textbook and started from the beginning. It was all coming back to him slowly. He had, at some point, actually paid attention in class. The hour of studying flew by, slipping through the tip of his pen. But it was a peaceful, secure feeling. After his nap, his mind was sharp, his memory better than ever. Leo was getting used to the time dilation buff. Having more time to study and work out than anyone else was an incredible advantage. It was like playing a video game. If you didn't know a character, you just had to play more matches, learn the mechanics, and eventually you'd master it. Getting into a bottom-tier state school was proof enough that he wasn't a genius. He had to rely on hard work to make up for it. He didn't have many other virtues, but he did have patience. To an outside observer, he'd been studying for less than an hour. But to him, it felt like nearly 4 hours. He'd almost finished the entire freshman accounting book, and his comprehension was excellent. When the progress bar vanished, he stood up, stretched, and gazed out the window. Under the tree, a boy and a girl were talking. The girl playfully slapped the boy's arm, and he shamelessly pulled her into a hug, then leaned down and kissed her. The audacity, in broad daylight. And, damn it, their faces were hidden by the thick leaves. He couldn't see a thing. A surge of jealousy hit Leo. He'd never really kissed a girl, not counting preschool. He'd had plenty of bold ideas when he started college, but zero execution. His roommate, Alex, on the other hand, had cycled through several girlfriends. Freshman year, he dated a sophomore. Sophomore year, he dated a fellow sophomore. Junior year, a sophomore. Now, as a senior, he was dating a sophomore. Leo's entire education on the subject of women came from Alex's lectures. He had a wealth of theoretical knowledge, but no practical experience. The host has proactively studied accounting and rapidly grasped key concepts. As a reward, the host will receive one beginner memory boost capsule. Consuming this capsule will increase memory by 100% for a duration of 1 day. A small green capsule, like a cold pill, appeared in his hand. Is it addictive? What's in it? Any side effects? Leo wanted to break it open to check for. He didn't know. Tiny mind control worms? Non-addictive. Ingredients: egg yolk, pork brain, peanuts, walnuts. Side effect: 30% reduction in libido. The system replied matter-of-factly. Leo was skeptical. These things are supposed to improve memory? I think you're messing with me. But a reduced libido? He could live with that. Less time wasted on pointless urges. He broke it open anyway. Inside were small white granules that smelled faintly of disinfectant. He popped it in his mouth and washed it down with water from the bottle he'd filled before leaving the dorm. The capsule dissolved instantly. He didn't feel anything different. A new progress bar appeared. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Study English. Mastering a language opens up a world of knowledge. Be a cultured and sophisticated kept man. Leo felt like a real academic now, switching from one subject to another when he got tired. And he finally understood the difference between being smart and being him. Before, he could read a word 10 times and it still wouldn't stick. Now, after 4 or 5 repetitions, it was seared into his brain. Holy crap, this felt good. No wonder geniuses love to learn. They were working with better hardware. Meanwhile, the TikTok video Sean had posted was inexplicably blowing up. It had probably been picked up by some algorithm promoting an hashtag organization challenge. The likes were flooding in. From 200 to 600, then 800, then it shot past 2,000, 5,000, 14,000, and was now over 20,000 and still climbing. The comments were pouring in, too. So satisfying. Extremely satisfying. Okay, the guy isn't like a supermodel, but he has a vibe. Dream roommate. The before is literally my dorm room, Aaron. I wish I had a roommate like this. Willing to pay for a roommate like this. I want to wake up next to this guy. His sleeping face is weirdly sweet. Of course, there were haters. Definitely a filter. Bet he's ugly IRL. This is so fake. No way you can clean a room that messy in an hour. Professional organizers charge thousands for this. Just another influencer stunt. The voiceover is fake. Has to be a voice actor. I heard one sentence, and I can't get it out of my head. Drop the voice actors at, thanks. So staged. Nothing on TikTok is real anymore. It's all produced by teams. But most comments were just satisfying. So satisfying I've been watching it on a loop. A gift for my OCD. The after is my new phone wallpaper. Can I come visit your dorm? Extremely satisfying. In a quiet classroom, by the window, a young man sat with a straight back and a clean, focused expression. He held a pen, diligently copying English vocabulary, a small smile sometimes playing on his lips. He was the very picture of a top student, radiating a quiet brilliance. Learning made him happy. Leo was happily splashing around in the ocean of knowledge. His mind was clear, his memory was off the charts, and his efficiency was incredible. If he'd had this during the SATs, he could have gotten into an Ivy League school. Studying English this afternoon, with the combined power of the time dilation buff and the memory boost capsule, was insanely productive. He learned more in this one session than in the previous 2 weeks combined. It was a whole different world. A 100% memory boost didn't just feel like double the effect. It felt like his brain had gotten a RAM upgrade. He finally had enough storage space. Before, even when he worked hard, it felt like his brain's memory was full. Now it was effortless. Studying was actually fun. He was a little tired, but it was a good kind of tired. By the time 2 couples were making out under the big tree, Leo was released from his intellectual pursuits. He looked at the entangled figures under the tree with a surprisingly calm and detached expression. A phrase popped into his head. Public displays of affection are a leading cause of premature relationship death. Congratulations, host, for mastering the essence of learning. Everything else is a distraction. As a reward, the host will receive the Chaplain Speed buff one day. Effect: increases speed by 100%, applicable to any part of the host body. This time, Leo didn't hesitate. He chose his hands. Increased hand speed. Hiv hiv hiv. A shy and lewd smile spread across his face. A new progress bar appeared. 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Rest. A balance of work and rest ensures longevity. Providers may come and go, but a kept man must endure. You must live long enough to see them all off. Leo stood up and paced around the classroom. His phone buzzed. It was his roommate, Alex. He picked up. Hey, what's up? Leo, you busy? Our advisor, Ms. Miller, is sick. The guys and I are going to go visit her. I already bought a fruit basket. Let's meet at the main cafeteria at 4:30. Sure, sound good. Leo was used to Alex's take charge attitude. It was phrased as a question, but the plan was already set. Leo packed his bag and headed straight for the cafeteria to wait. He figured the slow walk across campus could count as his rest period. He wondered if visiting his advisor would conflict with his system tasks. He got to the cafeteria entrance early. Seeing no one else, he ducked inside, bought 2 hot dogs from the roller grill, and wolfed them down before his roommates could see and expect him to share. It was the self-preservation instinct of a perpetually broke college student. A new progress bar appeared. 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Learn childcare. Knowing how to care for children is a fundamental skill for a kept man. She brings home the bacon, you stay home and look pretty, raise the kids, cook, clean, care for the elderly. That ellipsis is there, because even you can't go on, right system? Is this even human life? As Leo was reeling from the new task, his roommates arrived. Alex was holding a beautifully arranged fruit basket. Got this from a friend's shop. Super cheap, only $50. These things usually go for over $100. Just Venmo me $10 each. The others knew the drill, and each sent him 15. They walked over to Ms. Miller's faculty apartment together. A young woman in a white floral dress, her hair slightly messy, wearing white socks and slippers, opened the door. Ms. Miller, are you feeling any better? Alex asked, always the smooth talker. Even Sean, at 23, couldn't match 22-year-old Alex's social skills. Leo wasn't good with words. He was concerned, but he wouldn't know what to say. Ms. Miller seemed happy to see them, inviting them in and chiding them for spending money on the fruit. It was a one-bedroom apartment, cozy, but a strong smell of medicine hung in the air. Leo was curious what was wrong, but didn't feel it was his place to ask. Just then, the progress bar on his forehead flashed insistently. There are no kids here, Leo thought. How am I supposed to learn childcare? Then, a sound came from the bedroom. Ms. Miller hurried over, and the guys followed, curious. On the bed, a little boy was lying on his stomach, his back and waist wrapped in white bandages. The sound had been his phone falling to the floor. Seeing them, the boy looked up and said, "Hi, guys." They knew Ms. Miller had a son, probably in elementary school, but they hadn't heard he was sick. From the looks of it, it was pretty serious. The boy was pale and had his mother's delicate features, but he could only lie on his stomach, unable to move enough to even pick up his own phone. It turned out Alex had gotten it wrong. It wasn't Ms. Miller who was sick, but her son. But the gesture of concern seemed to move her even more. Cody took a fall last year, Ms. Miller explained, picking up the phone. His dad and I didn't think it was serious at the time. But this year, he started complaining about leg pain. We took him to the hospital, and it turns out the fall caused necrosis in his femoral head. He just had surgery and is recovering at home. Once he's healed up, he'll be back to running around like before. She explained it calmly, but Leo noticed her eyes were red and her hands trembled slightly when she said the word surgery. The progress bar in his vision was practically vibrating. Leo had no idea what to do. He didn't know the first thing about kids, especially one who was seriously injured. It sounded painful. Did they have to cut open his back to replace the bone? And would he need another surgery in a few years since he was still growing? Compared to that kind of pain, his own pathetic life suddenly felt like something to be grateful for. "Hey, you guys want to play some League? We got a full team of 5, Leo blurted out, then immediately wanted to kick himself, suggesting video games to his advisor's son right in front of her. To his surprise, Ms. Miller agreed. "Cody, you can play with them for a little while. I'm going to start dinner." She was usually against him playing video games, but after everything he'd been through, all she wanted was for her son to be happy and healthy. The guys from the dorm couldn't believe they were about to play video games at their advisor's house with her elementary school-age son. It was surreal. Leo, despite being a grown man, had a soft spot for playing as the character Ari. The kid, Cody, picked a marksman, and the others chose their usual heroes. The familiar game start music began, and Leo headed for the mid lane. An enemy champion appeared. He attacked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Without even using a special ability, he just basic attacked the enemy to death. Leo stared at the screen, bewildered. Was the other player an idiot? Or were they just feeding him a free kill? The enemy respawned, ran back, and Leo took them down again in 4 hits. They respawned again. 3 hits. While waiting for the enemy to respawn, he went to the bottom lane to help Cody. 3 hits, enemy dead. He went back to mid lane to take out the enemy mage, then back down to help Cody again. This opponent was tougher. It took 8 hits. And so it went. He was everywhere at once, taking down towers, killing enemies, farming minions, and pushing lanes. And then, the game was over. Leo was in a daze. It was like he wasn't playing the same game as usual. It felt like a high schooler dominating a middle school match. He was the MVP, with AK/D/ a score of 14, while no one on the opposing team broke 8. One of his own teammates had a score of 4. 1. The others were just as stunned. Since when was Leo this good? Again, Cody cheered. They started another match. 1, 2, 3, 12 hits. This opponent was better, but they still died, just a little slower. He helped the top lane, helped the bottom lane, dominated the mid lane. This game was even faster. Before the adrenaline could even kick in, it was over. Another MVP for Leo, with a score of 13. This time, he'd set up kills for Cody, getting enemies down to low health and letting Cody finish them off. Cody got a score of 11. Again, they played another, and another. Gaming was addictive. Leo had never felt so dominant in his life. In the game, he was a god, controlling the entire match. His hand speed was so fast, it was almost a blur. Because he was playing with Cody, he consciously adjusted his strategy to support his teammates and ensure they won. He was actually thinking about when to clear jungle camps, when to take on the Baron, how to secure an easy win. He'd never used his brain while gaming before. Even in this supposedly mindless pastime, he felt like he was learning something. They won every single game, and they were having a blast. Cody, lying on his stomach, was laughing and chattering, his voice much louder and more energetic than before. Laura Miller, hearing the sounds of joy from the living room, felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. She decided to cook a bigger dinner and have the students stay. The comforting aroma of food began to drift from the kitchen. An hour of glorious, high-speed gaming. The combination of the Chaplain speed buff and the memory boost capsule had earned Leo a devoted fan. Cody was looking at him with pure adoration, so excited he completely forgot about the pain in his back. Leo wanted to keep playing, but a new progress bar appeared in his vision, and he regretfully put down his phone. 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Learn housework. A man who can do chores is the sexiest man of all. Leo was pretty sure the system was full of it, but the rewards were immediate, like getting loot drops in a game. Do a little work, get a little prize. He could live with that. He told Cody they needed to take a break. Just then, Ms. Miller came in to suggest the same thing. She was surprised to hear Leo say it first. The student she remembered most was Alex, the mature, sweet-talking one. The others were just Alex's roommates. Ms. Miller, I can help you in the kitchen, Leo offered. The others chimed in with offers to help, but the kitchen was tiny. In the end, Leo was the first one to squeeze in. For someone who wasn't a smooth talker, having something to do with his hands gave him a lot of confidence. He was surprisingly deft at prepping vegetables, washing, chopping, and sorting. I didn't know you knew your way around a kitchen, Leo, Ms. Miller said, sounding impressed. She thought of her students as kids, and her own son was clumsy and impatient. She hadn't expected this big guy to be so capable. My parents were busy when I was a kid, so I often had to make my own lunch. I picked up a few things, Leo replied. Ms. Miller was stir-frying vegetables while a pot of bone broth next to her came to a boil, frothy bubbles rising to the surface. She reached for a ladle to skim it. I can get that, Ms. Miller, Leo said, taking the ladle from her. She didn't usually cook so much, but with a group of hungry college guys, she knew she had to make extra. She was starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. She stepped aside to continue stir-frying while Leo stood beside her, patiently skimming the foam off the broth. It was a tedious job that required patience, something he remembered doing for his mom as a kid. Just then, the system's voice popped into his head. Silver-level single woman detected in host vicinity. Net worth, $850,000. Intellect, 80 out of 100. Appearance, upper tier, 80 out of 100. Host, please perform admirably. Go for it. The sudden announcement nearly made Leo drop the ladle. You gotta be kidding me. This is my teacher. He never once thought of Ms. Miller as a woman in that way. He liked her kid, sure, but that was a long way from wanting to be a stepdad. She had a son who was almost 10. How could she be single? Laura Miller, 32 years old, divorced with one child. Owns a downtown condo valued at $650,000, a car valued at $30,000, and has $170,000 in savings. Monthly salary, $12,000. Health, excellent, no bad habits. Son, 9 years old. Culinary skill level, excellent. Leo stared at the system's profile, dumbfounded. He had no idea Ms. Miller was so well off. And an 80 for appearance? The damn system was surprisingly meticulous. To be honest, Leo had never really looked at his teacher's face. He just couldn't think of her that way. In class, she was always stern. But here in her kitchen, she was just a woman in a loose white dress and a blue apron, with her hair in a low ponytail. The apron cinched at her waist, subtly highlighting her figure. Her skin was incredibly fair. Even the back of her neck, where fine hairs escaped her ponytail. Leo felt a strange jolt and quickly pushed the thought away. The damn system was trying to corrupt him. This was his teacher. For the rest of the time in the kitchen, Leo tried to keep his distance, but in the small space, it was impossible. As Laura cooked, with the quiet presence of a young man helping beside her and the sounds of laughter from the living room, She felt a strange sense of déjà vu, like she was back in the days before her divorce, when she and her husband would cook together for friends. But then her husband had started traveling for work all the time. Laura's cooking was, as the system noted, excellent. She made 4 dishes and a soup, all in huge portions. The guys, being in their prime eating years, devoured everything. Laura sat with them at the table, having changed into a simple white linen shirt and pants. Her hair was still in a low ponytail, a few stray wisps framing her face. She looked gentle and warm, nothing like the fierce woman who yelled at them in class. Maybe it was because they were seniors now, about to enter the real world. The conversation felt more like one between peers. She was surprised to find that the quiet, unassuming Leo was actually quite impressive. His voice was pleasant and steady, giving him an air of reliability. He was capable and efficient. And most importantly, Cody adored him. She hadn't seen her son this happy in a long time. She was sitting next to Leo and found herself putting a piece of beef on his plate. "How is the internship search going for you all?" Jordan was a local. His parents had something lined up. Alex was well-connected and had it secured. Sean hadn't found anything, but was too proud to admit it. Leo just said it outright. "I haven't found anything yet, Ms. Miller. Do you think you could just sign off on my paperwork so I can pretend I did?" Laura lightly slapped his arm. "Don't even think about it." Leo's arm tingled where she touched it. He ducked his head and focused on his food. After dinner, they said their goodbyes to Cody, who was sad to see them go. He added Leo as a friend on his messaging app, and Laura did, too. Before this, Leo had only ever seen his advisor's announcements in the class group chat. For the first time, the unremarkable Leo had earned someone's admiration, even if it was just an elementary schooler. It still felt pretty good. He completed the childcare, housework, and eating tasks, and the system had rewarded him by removing 3 more minor scars. The old acne marks on his chin were fading. His skin felt smoother. Back in the dorm, Jordan grabbed him. "Dude, what face wash are you using? Your skin looks amazing. Let me borrow some." Leo silently handed him his bar of Irish spring soap. It was rare for all 4 of them to be in the dorm at night. Alex was usually out being a social butterfly. When he walked in, he did a double take. He thought he was in the wrong room. It was too clean. "Leo, are you okay?" Alex asked, concerned. "If something's wrong, you can tell us. We've been roommates for 4 years. We'll help if we can." Jordan, abandoning his study of the soap bar, chimed in, "Yeah, man. If you need money, I can hold off on buying those new sneakers. I can send you like $2,000. Sean, who was actually the poorest of them all, scratched his head nervously but still spoke up. "I don't have much, but I can lend you 300. No, 500. That's all I've got. Seriously, Leo, just talk to us. I can't give you money, but I can help with other stuff." Their sudden sincerity caught Leo off guard. He was a little stunned that these clowns were actually such good friends. He was so touched he couldn't speak for a moment. "I'm fine, guys," he said, trying to sound casual. "Just stressed about not having a job. You know how I get. I just go through phases." "This phase was pretty damn scary," Alex said. "Look, we're all about to go our separate ways for internships. Tonight, I'm taking you all out for a proper send-off. Time to see the world." Sean's eyes lit up. "Are we going to a club, Alex?" "I've never been to one." "No club, but there's a great karaoke bar. I invited some girls from the nursing program. Late night snacks and singing. You in?" "Hell yeah," the guys roared. As Leo was getting ready to leave, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his teacher. "Thank you, Leo. Cody was so happy today." Her profile picture was a photo of herself. Long hair, white shirt, a smile that showed a hint of a canine tooth. Her name was just Laura Miller. Curious, Leo clicked on her profile. Her status read, "You got this, Laura. 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Dinner. Eat well." A varied diet ensures balanced nutrition. After he finished eating, Leo noticed the schedule bar on his forehead had vanished. A small mercy. Time for the second act. Alex had picked a place called the Fire Mic, a karaoke buffet downtown, just outside the campus bubble. You paid a flat fee for up to 4 hours of singing and all-you-can-eat food. $25 a head. Leo hadn't left campus all day. The 2 sugar mamas the system had presented him with, the 69-year-old Professor Reed and the 32-year-old Ms. Miller, were both on university grounds. The thought of venturing out into the city proper gave him a jolt of excitement. He wondered if the system would start rattling off a citywide catalog of wealthy bachelorettes as he walked. He subconsciously straightened his posture, pulling his shoulders back and sucking in his gut. But the system remained silent as a stone. Was the GDP of this part of town too low for its liking? When it got to the Fire Mic, Alex was already waiting in room 809. He'd left ahead of them. At 22, Alex already carried himself like a young professional on the corporate grind, dressed in a light pink button-down, black slacks, and polished dress shoes. He looked more put together than even Sean. With his hair parted neatly, sharp facial features, and a solid 6-foot frame, Alex had an air of confidence. He sized up his roommates as they walked in. Jordan's bright red leather shoes were an assault on the eyes. Alex debated whether to tell him that half the girls in their major regularly made fun of them. Sean, as usual, looked rumpled. It didn't matter what he wore. Every outfit on him ended up looking like he'd slept in it. He slouched, his head perpetually tilted down. But Leo was a surprise. His hair was neat, his face was clean, and his clothes were crisp. It was hard to say if he'd had a sudden epiphany in social awareness or if it was just a fluke, but whatever it was, it had bumped him from a solid 6 to a respectable 7. "All right, guys, this is our last chance to not die alone," Alex said with a grin. "Try to be charming for once." Leo only had one thought. He was hungry again. He hadn't eaten enough at Ms. Miller's house. Having her sit next to him had made him inexplicably nervous. Alex might be a try-hard, but he'd picked the perfect spot. At a buffet, Leo could definitely eat his money's worth. The four of them headed out to the main hall to grab food. Leo methodically filled their table, arranging the plates with an almost artistic precision. Everything was organized, categorized, and color-coordinated. It was strangely appetizing. Just then, the system, which had been quiet for hours, suddenly chimed in. "Alert! A platinum-tier bachelorette with unlimited potential has been detected 30 feet from a host. Net worth, $1. 5 million. Intellect, moderate, 77. Appearance, excellent, 83. Host, please perform appropriately." "You can do it." Alex stood up, phone in hand. "They're here. I'm gonna go meet them." Thanks to the memory capsule, Leo's libido had been reduced by 30%. But even with that handicap, his 21 years of singledom still left him buzzing with anticipation. He didn't even need a sugar mama, just a girl. Any girl. But this was a platinum-tier bachelorette with unlimited potential. A net worth of $1. 5 million. It sounded a little low at first, but then he remembered Alex saying he'd once spent $40 on his girlfriend's manicure. With $1. 5 million, you could get over 37,000 manicures. A different color every day for 100 years. Leo suddenly felt a bit lightheaded. Here he was, with less than $100 to his name, thinking $1. 5 million wasn't a lot of money. As for moderate intellect, Leo didn't dare ask the system for his own score, assuming it was probably lower. But her appearance was rated excellent. An 83. The system had rated Ms. Miller an 80, and when he'd sat next to her at dinner, he'd seen that she was genuinely beautiful, with a delicate, gentle kind of grace that was kryptonite for a guy's age. It had made him too nervous to eat properly. He couldn't imagine what kind of idiot her ex-husband must have been to let her go. And now there was someone with an 83? How beautiful could she be? How old is she? Leo asked nervously. Stella Vance, 21. For the record, the host's intellect score is 69. The host is encouraged to apply himself. A handsome physique may catch a sugar mama's eye, but a rich mind is what will capture her heart. 69? He felt a surge of pride. He would have guessed 50 tops. Wait, how does a student have that much money? Trust fund disbursements. Gifts from family. The system explained nonchalantly. Leo felt his knees buckle. This was the real deal. Her birthday money was in the millions. He kept talking with the system while shoveling pasta into his mouth. He'd burned a ton of mental and physical energy today and needed to refuel. Jordan, meanwhile, was frantically checking his reflection in his phone's front-facing camera, trying to tame his stubborn hair. Sean looked nervous too. They were seniors, but they were still guys who spent most of their time holed up in their dorm room playing video games. Alex was the only social one. Sean pulled out his phone and reflexively opened TikTok, and then, holy crap, his video had blown up. Sean's hand started to tremble. Just then, the door to the room swung open. Alex walked in, laughing and chatting with a group of girls. This was what Leo envied most about Alex. In the dorm, he was just another slob, but in front of women, he was impossibly smooth, cool, calm, and articulate. A gentleman beast. As the girls entered, the dim lighting of the karaoke room made it hard to see them clearly. The room was mostly dark, with a few spotlights aimed at the stage, but the table was a beacon of neatly arranged, overflowing plates. Their eyes were all drawn to the guy at the table, methodically eating his pasta. He sat with perfect posture, and he wasn't a messy eater. His clothes were clean, his face was fresh. There was something kind of wholesome about him. They were all seniors. How had they never noticed a guy like this in the computer science department before? The girl in the lead was Jessica Monroe, the unofficial campus beauty of the English department. Long, straight, jet black hair fell to her waist. She was the girl every guy on campus had a crush on. Leo was impressed. Alex had actually managed to reel in Jessica. The three girls behind her were less familiar. Leo looked up curiously. Which one was Stella? The girl who followed Jessica was plus-sized, maybe 1.5 Jessica's wide. She wore a light blue tennis skirt that showed off her pale, well-fed legs. This was Sean's type. He always said he liked curvy girls. Leo glanced over at Sean, but he didn't even look up. Something was wrong. The last two girls walked in side by side. The one on the left had short hair and was tall, at least 5'9". She was dressed in a simple white t-shirt and jeans, a slightly androgynous style that made the girl next to her look tiny. Leo knew instantly. The tall, short-haired girl was Stella. Jessica Monroe was pretty, no doubt about it. But when the short-haired girl walked in, Jessica suddenly seemed average. The tall girl's features were strikingly bright and clear. Her legs were long and straight, and she seemed to be all legs from the waist down. Leo asked the system, a little curious, what's Jessica's appearance score? Jessica Monroe, 22. Net worth, $6,900. Intellect, moderate, 66. Appearance, average, 73. Negative net worth? Leo shivered. But how could the campus beauty only be a 73? Was it all makeup? He snuck another look at Jessica, but couldn't see any obvious signs. Her lips weren't even bright red. System. It was all over in a second. For actual, living, breathing human women. Leo, still communicating with the system, nervously stuffed the last of his pasta into his mouth. Jordan wasn't doing much better, furiously sucking on a straw in his Coke. Sean was still staring at his phone, completely dazed. Alex sighed. His roommates. In the dorm, they were all talk. Put them in front of actual women, and they turned into useless statues. No wonder they were all still single as seniors. He started with introductions, pointing to Sean. Sean had a good temper. He was a natural-born simp. This is the big boss of our dorm, Sean. He's an amazing photographer. If you ever need photos, he's your guy. Super helpful, right, Sean? Sean was in a state of shock. The number of likes on his screen was still climbing. It was over 70,000. The comments were past 4,000. Am I famous? Am I a TikTok genius? A photography god? A wave of exhilaration washed over him, a feeling that he was on the verge of conquering the world. So in that moment, all he could do was nod blankly. Alex sighed again. Hopeless. Jordan, the plus-sized one, finally let go of his straw and stood up. Hello, beautiful ladies. My name is Jordan Davis. You can call me Jordan or Jordy, whatever you like. He said it with a flourish that made the girls burst out laughing. And Leo, munch, 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 was still chewing his pasta. After the four girls arrived, everyone but Alex seemed to shrink into themselves. Jessica sat down next to Alex, and the other three girls settled in beside her. From right to left, it was Jessica, the curvy girl Becca, a girl with a round face named Maddie, and finally, the tall, short-hair girl, Stella, which meant Stella was sitting right next to Leo. He felt a jolt of panic and started nervously tapping each of his fingertips against his thumb, feeling like a complete moron. Thankfully, the lights were dim. No one was likely to be staring at his hands. The booth was small, forcing them close together. He could feel his spine lock into a perfectly straight line. He had no idea what to do. The computer science program was a sausage fest. His interactions with women were few and far between. And this close? Almost never. He could talk a big game about wanting a sugar mama, but in practice, he was a socially awkward mess. He froze. Now he was even too nervous to eat. It was ridiculous. No one was paying attention to him, but he felt a crushing self-consciousness. Say something. Start a conversation. But his mind was a complete blank. He didn't know what to talk about. He suddenly admired Alex, who seemed genetically engineered for this kind of thing. Talking to girls was so damn hard. He didn't dare look at the girl beside him, instead staring straight ahead at nothing. Suddenly, his eyes widened as a new schedule bar materialized in his vision. 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Sing. Singing brings joy, improves immunity and memory, and relieves constipation. Sing more, be a happy, healthy young man. Sugar mamas will like you even more. Leo, okay, I'm in. The system's mechanical voice chimed in at the same time. Host has completed the childcare task and received sincere gratitude. Reward, primary empathy boost, 1 day. Express yourself from the heart, and others will feel what you feel. In that moment, Leo felt a wave of affection for the system. He couldn't force himself to socialize, but he could follow instructions. He might regret it later and want to slap himself, but right now, he simply didn't have the social skills. It was too hard. He didn't know what to say and was terrified of saying the wrong thing. He felt short, ugly, awkward, and insecure. His life experience was limited, he wasn't funny, and all the stupid jokes he'd memorized had vanished from his brain. Leo figured the trophy husband system had really picked a lemon by binding to him. If he ever actually managed to land a sugar mama, it would be the system's victory, not his. He wondered if, when he was 60, some 80-year-old cougar would be willing to take him in. No, wait. The system said he'd only live to 50. So, without a word to anyone, Leo abruptly stood up and fled to the karaoke machine. The first song that popped up on the screen was a popular, emotional indie ballad. Without a second thought, he selected it. Over by the door, Alex was dragging Jordan off to buy drinks. The buffet was free, but booze cost extra. It was Alex's signature move, using other people's money to get things done. The drinks would almost certainly end up on Jordan's tab. Jordan, however, was usually happy to oblige. Alex knew how to make people feel included. Back in the room, Sean, the ultimate simp, was acting strangely. There were 4 attractive college women in the room, including the campus beauty and a girl who was arguably even more stunning, not to mention a curvy girl who was exactly his type. Yet, he hadn't made a single move. He was just staring catatonically at his phone. And Leo couldn't save the situation. So he sang. Singing would ease the tension. Otherwise, he might just die of awkwardness. The slow, simple intro began to play. It started with a child's clear, a cappella voice, piercing straight to the heart. Then, a gentle melody kicked in. Here's a little red flower for the branch that you grew yesterday, a reward for the courage you showed when you came up to talk to me. The girls, who had been chatting, suddenly fell silent, drawn in by the voice. The ice water of sworn enemies, the cheap wine of a reckless life, all the hardest days of your past. You've already conquered them all. Who could understand? Leo's voice filled the room. It was like a drumbeat striking deep inside everyone's head, a heavy, resonant thud that stopped all conversation. Stella had been dragged out by her roommate Jessica, and she was already regretting it. She didn't normally participate in these pointless social gatherings. They were boring, but they were seniors about to go their separate ways. Despite the little conflicts and dramas, the thought of it all ending brought a sudden pang of nostalgia. Stella's family was well off, but she was low-key about it. She didn't flaunt luxury brands. Of her roommates, probably only Jessica knew, and only because she'd accidentally run into Stella with her family once. Her parents wanted her to go abroad after graduation. It felt like there wasn't much worth staying for. The guys at school all seemed so childish. Take her own roommate, Jessica. She was good at makeup, but underneath it all, she was just a normal-looking girl. Yet guys called her a goddess. They deserved to be fooled. Stella had planned to stay for a bit and then leave. She hadn't touched the drink in front of her, instead picking up a cherry tomato and wiping it with a tissue before popping it in her mouth. And then she heard the singing, that voice. The sweet tomato suddenly burst with a tart, bittersweet flavor in her mouth. The song was from a movie about 2 families dealing with cancer. It was a story that moved from despair to a celebration of life, encouraging people to face hardship with courage and to cherish every moment. Life has so many important moments, so many beautiful things, however small. A sprout in a wasteland, a spring in a desert. Gratitude for life itself. Music transcends borders. It doesn't even need a common language to convey emotion. In that moment, Stella, who had been feeling lost about going abroad, lost about the future, bored with everything, suddenly felt her heart begin to pound. It was a strong, powerful beat. Her eyes welled up, and a wave of heat washed through her body. Her limbs felt heavy, but her heart kept beating. There was a yearning for life, an anticipation for the future, a surge of new ideas, all pierced by a thread of sorrow. And Sean, who had been staring at his phone, was now holding it up, seriously recording. Leo, treating it like an assignment, sang with intense focus until the end. As the last note faded, a voice echoed in his mind. Congratulations, host. You have made initial progress in conquering the platinum-tier bachelorette with excellent potential, Stella Vance. Favorability has reached 60. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights. Leo, 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Sing. Singing brings joy, improves immunity and memory, and relieves constipation. Sing more. Be a happy, healthy young man. Sugar mamas will like you even more. Leo finished the song, feeling a sense of catharsis. Just then, Alex and Jordan returned, carrying beers. Alex saw Sean standing there, filming Leo, and just shook his head. 4 gorgeous girls sitting right there, and his roommate was filming another dude. He was doomed to be single forever. Alex knew it was up to him. He had Jordan open the beers and pass snacks to the girls. Some people are just born smooth. He noticed Stella was only eating fruit with skins, so he brought a bowl of cherry tomatoes and lychees over to her. Soon, every girl had her favorite snack in front of her. With Alex back, the atmosphere instantly warmed up. He poured everyone a beer, even bringing one over to Leo, who was still by the karaoke machine. Having just finished the song, Leo was thirsty and too shy to go get a drink himself. He took the cold beer from Alex and downed it in one go. Experienced drinkers paced themselves. Amateurs chugged their first drink before anyone else has even started. The beer burned a little on its way down, and he could feel his blood start to move faster. His courage seemed to increase by a tiny fraction. The intro to the second song began, a melody that rolled in like a gentle tide. For you, I spent half a year's savings, crossing oceans just to see you. For this one meeting, I even practiced how I'd breathe when I saw your face. The low, resonant voice washed over them like a wave. Because of your promise, even in my darkest hour, I held back my tears. Leo was completely lost in the song. His voice was clear and pure, and after every line, you couldn't wait to hear the next. But that wasn't the most important part. The key was the emotion. When he sang, you could see the story unfold. As he sang the line about holding back tears, Sean, still filming, felt his own eyes inexplicably well up. In this strange city, in this familiar corner, we once comforted each other. We once held each other inside. The girl's eyes were getting red too. As I watched you leave in a cloud of dust, I was too sad to even move. Alex froze. He was a social butterfly, always knew how to please everyone, never had a shortage of girlfriends. But he was suddenly thrown back to his first online relationship. He'd been so excited to finally meet her. He'd bought the ticket, traveled to her city, and she'd ghosted him. After calling him baby every day online. That was the trip that had turned him into a player. He remembered wandering through the city's bus station, the crowds rushing past, feeling like a complete joke. Jordan was blowing his nose. He'd never had an experience like that, but just imagining it made him miserable, made him want to cry. Leo sang with complete sincerity, note after note, until the song ended. And then he heard the familiar mechanical voice. Congratulations, host. You have made considerable progress in conquering the platinum-tier bachelorette with excellent potential, Stella Vance. Favorability has reached 70. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights. Leo was stunned. He hadn't said a single word to her, and her favorability was already at 70. He suddenly understood the appeal of rock stars and the frenzy of concerts. Maybe the fans were conquering themselves. The artists sing on stage, and the fans below imagine 1,000 different stories. My poor baby. Everyone else in the room was still lost in the song's emotional landscape, their eyes glistening. When they looked at Leo, they felt a pang of sympathy. He sang with so much feeling. He must have been really hurt before. In a girl's mind, there's often an unconscious equation. Has been hurt equals a good person. A lot of players use the I've been hurt before persona to lower a girl's guard. After the song finished, Alex asked if anyone else wanted to sing. Jessica was already eager. She was a decent singer, too. Alex invited her up to pick a song with him. And just like that, in front of everyone, he casually touched her hand as he helped her up. He let go immediately, but the casual contact was enough to leave Leo and the others numb with secondhand trauma. Logically, with her favorability at 70, he should be pressing his advantage. But if Leo knew how to do that, he wouldn't still be single. He came down from the stage and sat next to Sean. Only Jordan was making an effort, chatting with the other three girls. And he was doing a pretty good job. He was an expert on makeup and women's fashion brands, and quickly found common ground. The reason he was single was that girls never saw him as a guy. Sean, on the other hand, had been in a trance since he'd seen his TikTok stats. It wasn't just his hands. His whole body was shaking with the feeling that his destiny was about to change. He'd been a simp for almost 4 years of college, taking photos for girls, editing them, making videos, honing his craft. And for all that, his TikTok account had a pathetic 789 followers. His videos usually got single-digit likes. 2 digits was a rare victory. Now that they were seniors and everyone was busy with internships, no one even wanted his free photo shoots anymore. He couldn't find an internship himself. His future was a dead end, so he just played games in the dorm all day. He was older than his roommates because he'd had to repeat his senior year of high school twice. He fought so hard to get into college, and for what? He was afraid to call home. Countless nights, after a gaming session, he'd lie in bed, staring at the stained ceiling, and cry like a coward. But once he was on his feet, he was back to being the shameless, thick-skinned Sean. He truly didn't know what he was going to do with his life. He was desperate to make money, to succeed, to go crazy with it. He wanted to show his parents, his relatives, that he'd made it. that he was a college student, that he was somebody. But in reality, he was just a failed simp, with nothing to show for it. But now, things were different. He saw an opportunity. Not everyone gets a lot of chances, and not everyone can seize them when they come. He learned that lesson the hard way when, after failing to get into a top-tier university, he'd studied for a year to retake the entrance exams, only to end up at a worse second-rate school. When an opportunity comes, you have to grab it. He had no margin for error. Grab it and go. He seized Leo's hand. "Leo," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "Let's team up. I'll be your videographer. We'll make TikToks together." Leo struggled to pull his hand away. "Dude, are you drunk? The girls are over there. I'm your roommate." On the stage, Alex was gazing deeply into Jessica's eyes as they sang a duet. "The world goes crazy. I don't care. One look from you, and I'll be there. The road is long. The world is wide. Just hold my hand. I'm by your side." "Sean, let go of my hand," Leo hissed. Sean was drunk. They say you see a person's true character when they're drunk. Drunk Sean wasn't loud or belligerent. He just hugged people and cried. He wanted to hug everyone. Leo got the longest hug. He tried to push Sean away several times, but Sean's grip was surprisingly strong. This was a disaster. The sugar mama had seen him scarfing down pasta like a starved animal, and now she was seeing him in a desperate embrace with his roommate. Leo felt his chances were beyond saving. Forget it. The main problem was the sound of Sean's crying. For a big guy, he cried in these tiny, suppressed whimpers. Leo only realized he was crying when he felt his t-shirt getting damp on his shoulder. Honestly, Leo felt like crying too. The four of them had been in the same dorm room for 4 years, never once switching. Sean was a genuinely good, honest guy. He was always the one fetching water, cleaning up, grabbing takeout. He'd say he was the oldest, the big brother, but they never called him that. It was always just Sean. His signature look was a goofy, earnest smile. Even when people said nasty things to him, he wouldn't get mad. He'd just grin. He had a way of looking slightly shabby in everything he wore. He was tall, but slouched a little, which gave him a perpetually defeated air. At first, Leo hadn't thought much of Sean, especially with his constant simping for every girl, regardless of what she looked like. He'd looked down on him. But now, in their senior year, Leo was starting to realize he wasn't so different for Sean. At least Sean had experience being a simp. Leo had nothing. Sean's family was from a rural area. His parents were farmers who did manual labor in the off-season. They had no education, no special skills. His father worked construction sites, and his mother washed dishes in restaurant kitchens. Sean didn't have much spending money, which was obvious from his clothes, but his parents had still managed to buy him a camera and a laptop. He had the essentials. Leo's family was ordinary too. His parents had been factory workers, a dual-income household with company housing. They'd been doing okay. Then they were both laid off. His dad was a good cook, so he started a food stall, which eventually grew into a small diner. They got by. They weren't rich, but they had enough. But Leo's uncle's family was very well off, and his aunt had also married well. His uncle had gone to college back when a degree was a golden ticket. Now he was a professor. His aunt had gone to college too, became an elementary school teacher, and married a civil servant who had risen through the ranks and now worked for a state-owned enterprise. His own father hadn't gone to college, starting at the factory early. Different choices, different lives. Family gatherings were always awkward. Every holiday, Leo felt the stark contrast. Sean envied him for being from the city and having a family business. He envied Jordan, whose family owned a factory. Jordan was the resident rich kid. Alex's parents both worked for the government, some kind of mid-level managers, though Alex was vague on the details. Sean was a lightweight. He hadn't drunk much, but he was already wasted, crying on Leo's shoulder. Leo had to take care of him, which meant he barely spoke to the girls. That night, it seemed Alex had too much to drink as well, getting into a deep, serious conversation with Jessica. Jordan, who had tried to get the girls drunk, ended up getting drunk himself. All talk and no game. The only one still sober was Leo. He watched Jordan chatting animatedly with Becca and Maddie. Jordan, probably loosened up by the alcohol, had somehow transitioned from talking about makeup to my dad's factory. The two girls were suddenly listening much more intently, their expressions far more enthusiastic. Seeing this, Leo gently propped Sean up against the sofa and slipped out to pay the bill. It was probably a case of the less you have, the more you care about appearances. At family gatherings, his dad was always the least successful one, but he was always the one who paid. The habit had rubbed off on Leo. But when he got to the counter, he found someone had beaten him to it. Stella was standing there. In her flat sneakers, she had to be at least 5'9". Leo felt a little embarrassed. Usually, Alex handled this kind of thing. He must have really had too much to drink tonight. Leo should have come out earlier. When they went out with girls, the four guys always split the cost, covering the girls' share too. It would come out to about $30 each. He walked up, feeling like he had to say something. Hey, can I get your number? I can Venmo you my share. Sure, I'll scan your code, Stella replied, looking at him. The light in the lobby was brighter. The guy in front of her had a clean face and neat eyebrows. He seemed a little nervous, but his voice was nice, clear, and steady. His clothes were ordinary, but they looked good on him. The light in the lobby was brighter. The girl in front of him had delicate features, completely free of makeup. Her skin was fair. She was tall with long legs, a slim waist, and she wasn't flat-chested. Her figure was incredible. Her face had a kind of handsome, assertive beauty, not the delicate, pointy chin type. Her eyebrows were a little thick over large, expressive eyes, a straight nose, and a small mouth. There was a stubbornness to her beauty, like she could pick up an AK-47 and start blasting at any moment. He pulled up his Venmo QR code. He paid for all 8 of them, sending $200. She immediately sent it back. Just pay for your roommates. He sent $100. She accepted it. And then, in his head, he heard again. Congratulations, host. You have made considerable progress in conquering the platinum-tier bachelorette with excellent potential, Stella Vance. Favorability has reached 75. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights. Leo had no idea how that had happened. The simple act of sending money had earned him another 5 points of favorability. It was after 11 by the time they got back to the dorm. After washing up, he lay down in bed and looked at the schedule bar on his forehead. 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Rest. Good sleep leads to a healthy gut, reducing the risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, baldness, and kidney problems. Be a healthy trophy husband. Sleep. The pale yellow bar pulsed with a soft, gentle light. Leo closed his eyes and drifted off. It had been a long day. 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Wake up, wash up, drink a glass of honey water. A healthy gut is a happy gut. And don't be so picky about your benefactor's gender. The world is full of possibilities. As the bright timeline flashed to life, Leo swiped at the air, instinctively trying to hit snooze and get a few more minutes of sleep. But his flailing only made the bar glow brighter. His mind cleared. He had slept incredibly well, out like a light the moment his head hit the pillow. But now, every single part of his body ached, as if he'd been run over by a freight train. He could barely lift his arms. It was delayed onset muscle soreness. The price you pay for suddenly going from 0 to 100. Yesterday's running and swimming had been a month's worth of exercise crammed into one day. Every muscle screamed in protest. Just rolling over was agony. Reading the system's latest memo made his asshole pucker. Leo painfully dragged himself out of bed. There was still a little honey left in the jar from yesterday. Honey was a magical substance. A jar of it seemed to last forever. He mixed a glass with water, drank it, and then made a trip to the bathroom. He felt lighter, but squatting over the toilet sent searing pain through his legs. 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. Run. A healthy body leads to a clear mind, inspires ambition, and maintains a positive spirit. Going down the stairs was a challenge. By the time he reached the track on the ground floor, his legs were trembling like a leaf in the wind. The inside of his thighs were especially sore. Running was out of the question. He could barely walk. The system's mechanical voice chimed in. Host has diligently completed the talent performance of singing. Reward. Primary Revitalizer Capsule. Take this capsule for instant relief from aches and pains. Climb 15 flights of stairs with ease. Duration, 24 hours. An essential pill for any aspiring trophy husband. A revitalizer capsule? Seriously? And this damn system had a delay. It watched him struggle down the stairs, legs shaking, before finally giving him last night's reward. A small white pill appeared in his hand. He popped in his mouth. It was slightly sweet. The effect was immediate. The full body soreness vanished as if he'd just shed a heavy coat. His limbs felt light and nimble. His back didn't ache, his legs didn't hurt. The morning air was crisp and cool. Last night at the karaoke bar, the air had been stuffy and thick with the smell of food and people. Now, just a few steps in the morning breeze felt like it was cleaning out his lungs. The trees along the path stood tall, and the sun was just beginning to rise, bright but not yet hot. Leo started to run, swinging his arms. Maybe he was a little too happy. He lifted his legs too high, swung his arms too wide, and nearly tripped over himself. Hopefully no one saw that. Augmented reality running coach activated. Please correct running posture, breathing, and points of force application. A sharp axe fells a great tree. Keep it up, host. The familiar voice was back. Even running had a personal coach. A holographic overlay of dotted lines appeared in his vision, showing that his arm swing was too wide and his stride too high. Just like with swimming, a gentle pressure guided him. When he shifted his weight correctly, the pressure disappeared. Leo slowed his pace, adjusting as he ran. It immediately felt easier. He wasn't gasping for breath after just a few minutes. Then, up ahead, he saw her again, Professor Reed, in a purple tracksuit, her gold-rimmed glasses attached to a gold chain, shuffling along at a snail's pace. "Leo, good morning." "Morning, Professor Reed." Because he was feeling so good about his run, a genuine smile spread across his face as he greeted her and continued on. Such a spirited young man. "Very good," Professor Reed said, continuing her slow walk, slapping her arms against her body with a rhythmic thwack-thwack. The purple tracksuit was new and looked expensive. Even at 69, she had good bone structure. Her skin, of course, showed her age, liver spots, wrinkles, but the 78-point rating was still there, holding strong. "Sigh." Leo kept running, and then the system's voice, tinged with excitement, sounded in his ear. "Congratulations, host. You have made initial progress in conquering the gold-tier bachelorette, Evelyn Reed. Favorability has reached 60. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights." Leo's foot caught, and he nearly face-planted. He forced himself to focus on correcting his posture, and soon he was lost in the rhythm of the run, leaving the main campus behind and heading for the road that circled the Honors College campus. This path looped around the lake, offering beautiful scenery. The Honors College itself was on an island in the middle of the lake, with newer buildings and even better landscaping. Of course, their tuition was higher too. At night, this path was known as Lover's Lane, thick with the stench of romance as couples held hands and strolled along the water. But this early in the morning, it was empty. Not even the lovebirds were up yet. Morning, lake breeze, green trees, rising sun. As he ran, Leo suddenly heard a splash. A fish leaped out of the water, its scales catching the morning light and creating a spray of rainbow-colored droplets. It was beautiful. Leo couldn't help but stop and watch. Another fish jumped, another rainbow of water. They were huge. He was suddenly hungry. A fish that active had to be delicious. "Hey!" As he stood there, a voice called out to him. He turned to see a girl in a black baseball cap, a loose white t-shirt, and tight, mid-thigh yoga shorts that showed off slender, toned legs. She was wearing white running shoes. She was standing right next to him, smiling. She was as beautiful as a spirit that had just leaped from the lake. "Morning," Leo said, surprised to see it was Stella. Standing in front of him now, she seemed to sparkle more than the fish's splash. "Want to run together?" Stella asked, her tone easy and direct. Okay, Leo forgot all about the fish. He wanted to strap on rocket boots and blast off into the distance. He felt like a fraud. He and his roommates spent all their time talking about girls, moaning about when they'd finally get a girlfriend. But when one actually stood in front of him, he was so scared he wanted to disappear. He started running again, focusing intently on the holographic guide, pouring all his concentration into his form. He didn't say a word to Stella. He had to study hard, work hard, and become a successful trophy husband as soon as possible. Women would only slow him down. Stella ran beside him, her pace steady. She was the athletic type, someone who enjoyed running and playing tennis. Last night, back in the dorm, Jessica had mentioned that Leo was an early morning runner, something his roommate had told her. Jessica loved to show off how much she knew about guys. Stella hadn't expected to actually run into him. An accidental meeting was so much more exciting than a planned one. Seeing him in the daylight, he seemed ordinary, just a regular guy. But he had a truly incredible singing voice. And not many guys got up this early to run. His form was professional. You could tell he did this often. His breathing was steady. Though she had only just met him, she was discovering a lot of surprising good qualities beneath his plain exterior. And he wasn't a big talker either, quiet and reserved. And so, what had been a solo run became a run for two. Senior year, and Leo was finally on Lover's Lane with a girl. Running. His roommate Alex had been holding hands with a sophomore on this very path 4 days into freshman year. For some, the journey takes 4 days. For others, it takes 4 years. They ran from Lover's Lane back towards the student strip. Leo's form became more and more standard, his breathing regulated. By the second half of the run, he was actually enjoying it. And the air today smelled exceptionally sweet, probably because there was a girl next to him. Stella's hair had a sweet, lychee-like scent that wafted over every so often as they ran. As they reached the end of the lake path, the system's voice chimed in again. "Congratulations, host. You have made remarkable progress in conquering the platinum-tier bachelorette with unlimited potential, Stella Vance. Favorability has reached 78. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights. Friendly reminder. Reaching 80 favorability will unlock a new system function. Another 3 points just like that. For no reason at all. Leo had been focused on running the entire time and hadn't spoken a word to her. For one, he was bad at conversation. For another, you can't talk while running without messing up your breathing. And yet, Stella's favorability had gone up another 3 points. This girl was way too easy to impress. What had he done to deserve this? You couldn't tell from looking at her. She was tall, with handsome features that made her seem a bit serious and aloof, not at all approachable. Her height alone probably intimidated a lot of guys. A 5'9" girl often looks a good half head taller than a 5'9" guy. Normally, a girl like that would make Leo want to walk on the other side of the street, worried he'd get yelled at for just getting too close. And yet, her favorability was at 78. As they slowed to a walk on the way back, Leo took a bold step. "Stella, let me buy you breakfast. There's a place on the student strip that has amazing breakfast bowls. They're really good and not expensive." The moment he said it, he felt a twinge of regret. She was a legit rich girl. She definitely didn't care about not expensive. Only he did. Oh well, it was out there now. At least his voice, thanks to the buff that was about to expire, was still steady and confident, not shaky and meek. "Sure," Stella replied. "That easy?" Leo was incredulous. Was this how Alex did it? Just ask and get a yes? They got to the student strip. The breakfast bowl stand had 3 small tables out front. It was still early, so 2 were empty. It was a local specialty, a kind of savory porridge with thin noodles cooked down until you could practically drink it. You could add almost anything to it, flash cooked to order. The peppery, savory base, combined with the aroma of the noodles, was heavenly, especially with a fried dough stick. A hot, freshly fried dough stick dunked into the bowl, soaking up the flavorful broth. Pure bliss. Leo asked Stella if she had any allergies or things she didn't like. She said she hated cilantro, but anything else was fine. Leo ordered 2 deluxe, yacht-sized bowls, no cilantro, and 4 fried dough sticks. He watched as Stella, pulling a wet wipe from somewhere, meticulously cleaned the small table and stools. Leo brought the food over and was about to sit down when the system suddenly spoke up, daily flirting tip. When sitting with someone, sitting adjacent is better than sitting opposite. Sitting face-to-face can feel confrontational, like an interview. Sitting next to each other naturally lowers defenses and makes it easier to increase favorability. Leo's hand was already on the stool. He paused, then picked it up and moved it to the corner of the table next to Stella, so they were sitting at adjacent sides. After sitting down, he realized the system had a point. Sitting next to each other made it easy for their arms to brush, a casual form of physical contact. Plus, when you sit face-to-face, you worry about how you look when you eat, if you're showing too much gum or have spinach in your teeth. Sitting at an angle meant you weren't being stared at. And if you had a good side profile, that was a bonus. It was definitely better. At least Leo felt less self-conscious and could eat more naturally. To his surprise, Stella had a healthy appetite. He'd expected her to leave half the bowl, but she finished the entire thing along with one of the dough sticks. Leo ate the other 3. After they finished, he ordered takeout for his roommates, as usual. Stella didn't. Girls' dorms were always stocked with snacks, bread, and milk. She found Leo interesting. Was it her imagination, or did his voice have a pleasant scent? With breakfast packed up, they started walking back. Time was tight, and his mission was important. Leo was fired up, determined to study hard and become the king of trophy husbands. Stella stopped at a fruit stand at the end of the strip and bought some fruit. A lot of fruit. Leo helped her carry it. He had that much common sense. Whenever his mom went shopping, she treated him like a pack mule. Girls were so damn expensive. His massive, filling breakfast had been less than $10, and it had meat and seafood. This small bag of fruit was over $50. Leo was secretly floored. This was another reason he didn't date. 2 trips to the fruit stand with a girlfriend, and his entire monthly budget would be gone. At the fork in the road, down for the guys' dorms, up for the girls. Leo figured this was where they parted ways. He handed the bags of fruit to Stella. She only took 1 small bag. "The rest is for you," she said. Leo blinked. "Huh? That can't be right." "Thanks. Are you running again tomorrow?" Stella asked. "Yeah. Okay. See you tomorrow, then." Stella gave a little wave and turned, walking away without a backward glance. When Leo got back to the dorm, carrying the fruit, Alex was already up. "Leo, did you win a lottery? Why'd you buy so much fruit?" Leo figured if he said a girl gave it to him, his roommates would tell him to stop dreaming. He couldn't explain it anyway. How'd he end up getting fruit from a girl? It was completely backward. Was he just naturally suited for the trophy husband life? Walking back to the dorm with the fruit, Leo's mind was a jumble of emotions. He was suddenly beginning to understand why everyone dreamed of being a kept man. How could you not? It was pretty sweet. The fruit smelled amazing, a sugary aroma filling the air. Fruit's on the table. Save some for me, he said, dropping the bags. I'm heading out to study. Alex, you're looking sharp. I've got plans, Alex said, slicking back his hair in the mirror. He just showered and smelled of soap. Jordan's head popped down from the top bunk. Alex, I thought you were only into sophomores. Did you change your type? Are you moving on to senior girls now? That's Jessica Monroe. Please don't corrupt her. Leave us something to dream about. Don't be an idiot, Alex said. Jessica and I are just friends. She's starting an internship at a company and had some questions for me. Jordan and Leo both booed in unison. He called her Jessica. Sean was still passed out, snoring loudly. He was a lightweight. He was going to feel terrible when he woke up. Leo took a quick shower, packed his bag, and headed out. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Study English. Learning is the ladder of human progress. The more you learn, the more ladders you have. With enough ladders, you can easily reach a sugar mama. Time to study. Back in the dorm, Sean woke up. The room was bright with sunlight. A cold breakfast bowl and a bag of fruit sat on the table. He was alone. His head was pounding. He drank too much last night and had a series of chaotic dreams. In one, he was running a huge TikTok account, making tons of money. He bought an Audi, no, a Mercedes, and drove it back to his hometown. But at the entrance to his village, the car got stuck in the mud, and all the villagers came out to help lift it, telling him how proud they were of him. Was it a dream? He quickly grabbed his phone and opened TikTok. It wasn't a dream. Account name, and not a simp. 108K likes. 559 following. 3,723 followers. In one day, his 789 followers had ballooned by nearly 3,000. The video had over 100,000 likes. Sean scrambled out of bed. Still in yesterday's clothes, which reeked of smoke and food, he grabbed the breakfast bowl and started eating as he walked, messaging Leo. Where are you? I'm coming to find you. You want to make TikToks together? Are you kidding me, Sean? Leo had just spent 2 hours studying English under the time dilation buff and was taking a quick break to rest his eyes. He was taking it seriously, cramming as much as he could while the memory boost was active. Every minute counted. The efficiency was incredible. He'd basically relearned half of his freshman English textbook in one morning. He wasn't sure what good it would do him, but every little bit helped. Then he saw his roommate approaching. Sean's eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he'd been up all night. His steps were unsteady. I'm not kidding, Leo. I know something's changed with you the last couple of days. You were never this motivated. You don't want to talk about it. I won't push. But look, in our dorm, we're the only two who haven't found an internship. My family's poor, from the countryside, no connections. You're from a regular family, too. We're not like Alex and Jordan. We have to rely on ourselves. Leo, you went viral. You have a chance to get big. Look at this video I shot. Leo took Sean's phone, its screen cracked in the bottom right corner, and watched the video. An ugly guy cleaning a dorm room. Wait, that was him. Sean, did you forget to use a beauty filter? Filters look fake. That's not the point. The point is the likes, the comments. Look, Leo opened the comments. Ugly dude. Confirmed. That's not a dorm room. That's a pigsty. This guy looks like the main character from a Japanese porn movie I saw. Bro upstairs, let's talk. What is all this crap? Leo was bewildered. He was a perfectly respectable young man, and they were talking about him like this. There are comments calling you handsome further down. I just haven't had time to moderate them yet. Leo scrolled. There were, indeed, tons of comments of all kinds. He still didn't get it. The video was nothing special. It was just him cleaning the dorm. The camera was shaky, clearly shot on a phone, and the content was simple. It even ended with a shot of him washing his face and going to sleep. The whole thing was just over 2 minutes long. That's it. He had no idea why it had gone viral. It felt completely random, like those one-hit wonders on TikTok that blow up overnight and then disappear. Leo, I know this video's success might be a fluke, Sean said, his voice raw. Maybe the next one won't do as well, or maybe it'll be like my old videos with single-digit likes that nobody watches. I don't care why it happened. All I know is it happened. I filmed you, and it went viral. I don't know the reason, but I can keep filming you. Maybe eventually I'll figure it out. Ahem. Sean was getting worked up, and he coughed to clear his throat. Leo, let's do this together. Let's make TikToks. I'll film, you just be in them. I'll do all the post-production, everything. Even if we don't make a dime, we can treat this as our internship. Isn't that better than grinding away at some random company? Sean looked like he'd been brainwashed by a pyramid scheme. His eyes were bloodshot, spit was flying from his mouth, and his arms were waving around. his hands trembling with emotion. Leo had rarely seen him this fired up. The idea of it being an internship was tempting, but Leo was still worried. He was using a cheat system. If Sean was filming him all the time, would his secret be exposed? Would they send him to a mental hospital? Host is advised to expand his channels of self-promotion. Appropriate public exposure is beneficial for achieving the goal of becoming a trophy husband. The system's mechanical voice intoned. Leo, what do you say? Okay, I'll do it. Don't get so excited, Sean. I agree, but it can't interfere with my daily life. And we can't film anything weird. I don't want my parents or relatives to see it. Of course not. Leo, I think we can really make this work. Seriously, I have never been this sure about anything in my entire life. You go back to studying. I'm going to go edit the videos of you singing from last night. I'll come back to film you later. Sean practically bolted out of the room. He took a few steps, then stopped and ran back. Leo. Yeah. Sean pulled Leo into a crushing hug. Thank you, Leo. Thank you. Believe me, we're going to succeed. We will. At the same time, the system's voice chimed in. Congratulations, host. You have successfully conquered the rusted bronze tier bachelor, Sean Riley. Favorability has reached 80, achieving the best friend stage. No matter how far apart you may be in the future, you will always have a place in his heart. Please continue your efforts and climb to new heights. Leo shuddered and quickly pushed Sean away. Sean's eyes were red. Leo, he said earnestly, from now on, I got you. Get out of here. Go get to work. He could conquer guys, too. That was terrifying. Leo had never had a real girlfriend, but he was damn sure he liked girls. Male into females. No exceptions. Favorability with a target has reached 80. System upgrading. Upgrade complete. This upgrade has enhanced character information and optimized the reward mechanism. The mechanical voice finished, and a panel appeared in front of Leo's eyes. Name, Leo Foster Stamina. 6 out of 10 mediocre. You need to work out more. You're too weak. Intellect. 6 + 1/10 mediocre. The memory boost helps, but being a trophy husband isn't easy. Use your brain. Mood. 7 + 1/10 spirited. You've got youthful energy. Keep it up. Morality. 8 - 1/10. Morality level is unusually high. Pro. Easily gains favorability. Con. Easily taken advantage of. Prone to self-reproach. Appearance. 6 + 1/10 average. Still needs work. Looking at the straightforward stat panel, Leo had to admit it was accurate. He was a completely average person. Average abilities, average looks, but with a ridiculously high moral compass. He couldn't stand injustice. He figured the world was probably held together by NPCs like him. He was doing his part for world peace. Host has successfully conquered a rusted bronze tier bachelor for the first time, reaching 80 favorability. Reward. 1 attribute point. May be allocated freely. Leo was bad at games, but he played enough to understand this. An attribute point for his character sheet. Following standard gaming logic, he should probably reinforce his strengths. His highest stat was morality. What would happen if he added a point there? When a host's morality level is significantly above average, pro, easily gains favorability and trust. Con, prone to intense mental anguish and depression. High morality without the corresponding ability to enact, it will make your life exceedingly difficult. Please choose with caution. Leo thought for a moment, then allocated the point to appearance. The comments on Sean's TikTok were probably to blame. They called him ugly. He wasn't a model, but he definitely wasn't ugly. Appearance, 7 ± 1/10 above average. Keep it up, host. A handsome face is the foundation for catching a sugar mama's eye. Leo opened his phone's front-facing camera. The ugly guy in the reflection seemed to have gotten a little easier on the eyes. The ugliness was less pronounced. In fact, if he looked long enough, he could see a faint glimmer of handsomeness. If he could look handsome even in the selfie camera, they must have actually gotten better looking. Nice. Leo was thrilled. He felt like taking a victory lap past the girls' dorms. But the schedule bar above his head hadn't changed. It began to flash. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Study English. Learning is the ladder of human progress. The more you learn, the more ladders you have. With enough ladders, you can easily reach a sugar mama. He checked his watch. 5 minutes until 9. 5 minutes with the time buff was still like 20 minutes of real-time studying. He couldn't waste it. He went back to his books. He had only started studying seriously yesterday, but he was already enjoying it, feeling a desperate need to reclaim all the knowledge he'd missed over the past 21 years. And after studying, he felt like today's version of himself was a tiny bit more substantial than yesterday's. It was the feeling of filling an empty head with a little bit of knowledge. Knowledge has weight. It makes you feel more grounded. Feeling a little smarter made him feel a little happier. Final 5-minute sprint. He sat up straight, his eyes on the book, silently mouthing words and taking notes with his pen. The classroom was bright, the trees outside the window were green, the breeze was gentle, and the sun was soft. This was the life. And the boy, he really was quite handsome. 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eat yogurt and fruit. A work-life balance is a fundamental principle for any qualified trophy husband. Leo stood up and stretched. He packed his books and ambled over to the library. He bought a yogurt on his way to study this morning, one with fruit on the bottom. He felt like his brain was growing. System: a plain yogurt costs $1.50. An orange costs $0.80. Total $2.30. Host purchased an orange-flavored premium yogurt, $4.50. Host needs to improve his calculation skills. A trophy husband who cannot manage a household budget is easily discarded. Leo: and my brain just shrank back to normal. Host has efficiently and proactively completed the study task with excellent performance. Reward: intermediate clear voice capsule. Duration: 6 hours. Can be stored. Valid for 1 month. Effect: makes people want to hear the next sentence after you speak one. May have a probabilistic effect on animals. Leo saw a small capsule icon appear on his panel. This was more advanced than before. He could either use it or store it. He chose to store it for now. The effect of yesterday's primary clear voice buff had just worn off. As he ate his yogurt, Leo thought about the buff. It had made him speak a little louder and slower than usual, less rushed, with a more stable breath. He figured he could try to consciously imitate that in his normal speech. He passed a barbershop and noticed his hair was getting a little long. He turned and went inside. It had absolutely nothing to do with the cute girl with a high ponytail sitting by the door. He finished the last of his yogurt, resisting the urge to lick the lid. It felt like a third of the yogurt was still stuck up there. Such a waste. The barbershop on the student strip was simple and cheap. $20 a haircut. If you went over to the Honors College campus, the salons there were way more expensive. He'd heard haircuts there started at $60, with different prices for different stylists. $60, $120, $300. There was even a legendary master stylist who supposedly charged $2,000 and had worked on celebrities. Leo had never been inside. He just heard about it from the owner of this shop. The owner was a balding man. The girl out front was his employee, some distant relative who wasn't in college and spent all day on her phone. She was pretty, though. Looking sharp, kid. The haircut makes you look real handsome, the owner said, admiring his own work in the mirror. Leo looked at himself. With the attribute point in appearance, his score was now a 7. Looking closely, he really did look much better than before. It wasn't that he'd thought he was ugly before, just that his handsomeness was subtle. He'd always thought he was decent looking. With glasses, he kind of had a sexy nerd vibe. A delusion. With glasses, he looked like a bookworm. But now it was like his features had settled. His eyes seemed a little bigger, his jawline more defined, his lips sharper, his nose straighter. His skin was clearer and a little fairer. There were no drastic changes. He still looked like himself, just better. This was probably why the system wanted him to do TikTok. The change was subtle enough to be believable, not like the magic of makeup or plastic surgery. Leaving the barbershop, Leo's net worth was now minus $20/$350. He had $45 left. He'd probably have to ask his dad for money again soon. He scrolled through his chat history with his dad. It was just a long list of money transfers. His expenses had shot up in his senior year. He wasn't earning anything yet, but he was already feeling the pressure of needing money. He'd have to buy a suit for internship soon. He needed to ask his dad for an equipment fee. Sean's idea of making TikTok for their internship was still in the back of his mind. It wasn't that he wasn't tempted, but becoming a real influencer was so hard. They were just regular guys. He didn't want to get his hopes up. He suddenly remembered Sean offering to lend him $500 when he was worried. He wondered how much money Sean actually had to be classified as a rusted bronze tier bachelor. And was Sean really still single? After years of simping, he never once had a girlfriend? Rusted bronze tier bachelor. Net worth, $415. Laptop and phone trade-in value, approximate $320. Cash, $95. Intellect, moderate, 70. Photography and editing at beginner level. Appearance, average 66. After the upgrade, the system provided more detailed information. Reading it, Leo felt a genuine pang of emotion. That was all the money Sean had to his name, and he'd been willing to lend him almost all of his cash, not even knowing what it was for. That kind of loan might never be paid back. Sean was a real friend, a true brother. Back in the dorm, Sean opened his laptop ignoring his games, and started editing the videos he'd shot at the karaoke bar. The lighting was terrible, so he had to adjust it without making it look overexposed and fake. And the audio quality from his phone wasn't nearly as good as it had been live. But with no one else in the dorm, he put the audio on repeat. It was still incredibly moving. The music made it easy to focus, and he felt like he was working at peak efficiency. The video quality wasn't as good as yesterday's, but the music was undeniable. Sean decided to cut 2 separate videos, one for each song, since TikTok videos couldn't be too long. He'd intersperse shots of the audience's reactions. Since he didn't know why the first video had gone viral, he just followed his gut, trying to preserve the raw emotion of the performance. Sean was excited, completely absorbed in his work. For a moment, the images that were usually branded into his soul, his father, covered in grime at a construction site, his mother, in a greasy apron, squatting in a kitchen to wash dishes, faded slightly. He usually slouched, maybe because his soul was always carrying that weight. He carried his parents with him in everything he did. He loved them. They were his motivation and also his burden. Time moved forward. The sunlight crept across the broken bowl on the windowsill, making the green moss inside look even greener. Sean's fingers flew across the keyboard. His greasy bangs fell into his eyes. He brushed them away and kept typing, the keycaps shiny with use. The sunlight crept across a pot of orchids on a library windowsill. Leo carefully turned a page, a pen spinning absent-mindedly in his hand. A short strand of hair the barber had missed was stuck to the back of his neck, itching. He swatted at it and turned another page. 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Read, books are the tools for building a soul. Victor Hugo. A pretty face is a dime a dozen, but an interesting soul is 1 in a million. An excellent trophy husband must have an interesting soul. Read more, play on your phone less. Leo was holding an ordinary book. The system hadn't specified what he should read, so he just grabbed one at random. If his goal was to become a high-quality trophy husband, grinding on calculus probably wasn't the best use of his time, unless he wanted to shoot his shot with Professor Reed. He did not, so he was embracing randomness. Just browsing the titles in the library made him feel like he was getting smarter. He'd spent the morning on his freshman English textbook, and now his brain was full of tangled vocabulary. When he checked out his book, he had to resist the urge to show off and say, "I'd like to borrow a book." What was the point of learning all this stuff if you couldn't show off a little? Once he got good enough, he'd ostentatiously read an English-language original in public. The book in his hands was Postpartum Care for Sows. He didn't know why he'd picked it up. Maybe the curly pigtail on the cover was cute. Check if the afterbirth has been fully expelled. After the sow gives birth, the number of afterbirths should be checked against the number of piglets to ensure none are retained. Clean the sow's body. The sow's rear and vulva, as well as the udder area, should be cleaned to prevent bacterial infection. Appropriate exercise. During postpartum recovery, moderate exercise and sun exposure are necessary to improve the sow's physical function and promote lactation. For sows that required manual assistance during birth, the birth canal should be cleaned and treated with anti-inflammatory medication. More useless knowledge was added to his brain, but reading a book felt more substantial than scrolling through TikTok, probably because it wasn't as addictive. Anything not addictive, anything that goes against human nature's desire for easy dopamine, builds character. Host has completed the reading task with great focus and has retained 1/3 of the content. Reward. Host has acquired a random benefit from the book, Primary Nursing Skill, Permanent. Congratulations on taking another step toward becoming a high-quality trophy husband. Life is full of accidents. Mastering primary nursing skills will allow you to handle most unexpected situations. How could anyone not feel secure with someone as capable as you? He'd unlocked a weird skill, but the permanent part made it feel like he got a good deal. His phone buzzed. A message notification. It was from Cody, Ms. Miller's son, whom he'd added yesterday. Leo, my mom has a last-minute meeting today. Can you take me to get my dressing changed? Sure. I'll come get you. Leo was bad at saying no, especially to a kid. This was probably the weakness of having a morality score of 8. At the same time, the schedule bar on his forehead helpfully changed to a parenting task. He remembered it was supposed to be swimming at this time. 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Learn childcare. Knowing how to care for a child is a basic qualification for a trophy husband. We got to Ms. Miller's apartment. No one answered the door. It was a keypad lock. Cody had sent him a code. Leo punched it in, and the door clicked open. The apartment was spotless, with a faint smell of antiseptic mixed with a light, pleasant fragrance. Cody, it's me, Leo. Leo, help, a voice call from inside. Leo found the little guy in a pitiful situation. He was in his wheelchair, but he'd gotten it wedged between his bed and a desk and couldn't move. Leo didn't ask why he hadn't called his mom. He understood the psychology of a boy that age. They were desperate to grow up, to prove they were independent, to not seem weak in front of their mothers. Leo helped pull the wheelchair free. What do you need? I can get it for you. A book on that shelf. Leo saw a manga volume. This one? Yeah. Cody's face lit up as soon as he had the book. That was what he'd been trying to get when he got stuck. Luckily, his phone had been within reach. If it hurts when they change the dressing, you can lie down and read this. It's my favorite. It's super epic. Cody had a good personality, not awkward at all. Leo felt the kid was way more cheerful than he was. He remembered being a chatty, outgoing kid himself. He wasn't sure when he'd become so quiet. It was probably around that age when his parents were laid off and started the food stall. Their lives had changed overnight. They'd gone from a stable, dual-income family with a regular paycheck to constant uncertainty. He remembered his parents getting along well back then, but after they were laid off, they started fighting all the time. Not in front of him, but he could feel the tension in the air. That was probably when he started talking less. This kid, though, was still a chatterbox, talking nonstop as Leo pushed him to the campus clinic. My dad was supposed to come today, but he bailed on me again. His new girlfriend is pregnant, and he said she wasn't feeling well, so he had to take her to the hospital. The boy's lip jutted out as they passed under the shade of a tree. Leo thought to himself that everyone has their own problems. He didn't know how to comfort him. Leo, can you believe my dad? He just divorced my mom, and his new girlfriend is already pregnant. He's such a jerk. When I grow up, I'm definitely not going to be like him. Leo thought, don't be so sure. Boys have a funny way of turning into their fathers. Leo, now that my dad has a new kid, is he not going to want me anymore? Whatever. I don't want him either. Leo, after we get this done, can you play a round of League with me? I can get my friend to join. Sure, Leo replied. Awesome. I'll tell my friend right now. My dad said this place was too far out of the way, and he was going to take me into the city to make changing the dressing easier. He's such a liar. Ugh, my mom's going to be upset when she finds out. That's why I called you. At least this way, she can be upset a little later. Oh, and Leo, don't tell my mom about my dad's new girlfriend being pregnant. My mom's a really good person. I don't want her to be sad. My dad's an asshole. His new girlfriend isn't even pretty. She's just 3 years younger than my mom. He must be blind. I hope my mom finds someone awesome. If I were her, I'd find some hot young guy like 10 years younger just to piss my dad off. That'd show him. Leo thought, kid, you're a real piece of work. When they finally reached the campus health center, Leo let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The gossip he'd been subjected to on the way over was a little too intense. He felt like he knew way too much. The school physician, Dr. Evans, was a portly, balding man who greeted Cody with familiar warmth. Dr. Evans, Cody said politely, I'm here to get my dressing changed. Laura said you were heading into Bridgeport today. I didn't think you were coming by, Dr. Evans said, turning to his supplies. It's just me here right now. Hey, you, he called out, gesturing to Leo. Come give me a hand, would you? Leo, with his earnest student vibe, was an easy target for a doctor looking to delegate. And fresh off reading postpartum care for sows and acquiring a permanent basic first aid skill, Leo was surprisingly ready. At first, Dr. Evans just wanted him to hold a few things, but he quickly realized Leo was unervingly competent. Soon it was Dr. Evans who was handing things to Leo. Dr. Evans, a legitimate M.D. from a good university who'd somehow ended up as a campus physician, was a master of strategic laziness. Leo's movements were meticulous, steady, firm, and perfectly calibrated. He unwrapped the old bandage and prepped the wound for a new dressing with a speed and precision that was almost hypnotic. A clumsy person could turn a small wound into a big one, but a professional made it look as easy as peeling a banana. Cody's injury was simple enough to disinfect. The tricky part was rewrapping the bandage around his waist. If it wasn't secure, he could easily injure himself again. Too tight, and it would restrict movement and hinder his recovery. Leo used a figure-8 wrapping technique, securing the bandage firmly without completely immobilizing Cody's torso. Dr. Evans watched, genuinely impressed. Kid, have you had professional training? Your technique is flawless. Better than some of the nurses we get. Cody, lying face down, chimed in. Yeah, for real, Leo. You're awesome. The last time I got this changed, it hurt so bad I thought my back was going to break all over again. I didn't feel a thing this time. My grandma was a head nurse, Leo explained smoothly. I used to hang out at the hospital with her all the time when I was a kid. It wasn't a lie, just a carefully crafted implication that he'd picked it up there. A part of him was shocked at how easily the fib had rolled off his tongue, sincere and seamless. Maybe I have a future as a scumbag after all, he thought wryly. Just as they finished, Dr. Evans pulled back the curtain to reveal Laura Miller standing there, looking slightly out of breath and red-eyed, as if she'd run the whole way. Leo had always respected his teachers, but after the gossip bomb Cody had dropped on him, he suddenly felt a wave of awkwardness. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Cody asked, his voice a mixture of surprise and delight. "You young man, causing trouble for everyone," Ms. Miller said, her voice sharp with worry. She had assumed Cody's father was picking him up today. She'd been fighting with her ex over the divorce, and had left early to avoid another argument in front of their son. Then she got a call from him, righteously blaming her for not taking good care of Cody before declaring he would take him into the city to make his appointments easier, only to not show up at all. The thought of her son, injured and waiting alone for a father who never came, made her chest ache with a suffocating tightness. He's his own son, she thought, a fresh wave of anger and pain washing over her. What could possibly be more important? If a colleague hadn't mentioned seeing Cody on campus, she wouldn't have even known. "It's no trouble at all, Ms. Miller. I wasn't busy," Leo said quickly. He recognized the tone. It was the same way his own mom sounded when she was worried, leading with blame, but only because she was terrified underneath. He hadn't really understood it before, but seeing Ms. Miller with Cody, it just clicked. Sensing her distress, Leo decided to see it through and helped her get Cody home. The boy, who had been a little down that morning, was now buzzing with energy. Sitting in his wheelchair, he was a constant stream of chatter. "Mom, Leo is so cool. He promised he'd play a round of League with me after this. Mom, did you know Leo knows first aid? He changed my bandage, and I didn't even flinch. Mom, can we have barbecue for lunch? Mom, Mom." Listening to Cody's endless refrain, Leo found himself missing his own mother and made a mental note to call her later. When they arrived at Ms. Miller's apartment, Cody clung to him, not wanting him to leave. Leo shot him a look, mouthing that they could still play online from his dorm. Ms. Miller saw the silent exchange. As Leo turned to leave, she reached out and patted his arm, much like she would her own son's. "Where do you think you're going? You're staying for lunch." The spot where she touched him felt like it was burning. He practically jumped. Cody let out a series of high-pitched giggles, clearly delighted to see Leo get the same treatment he did. Leo offered to help in the kitchen, but Ms. Miller stopped him again, this time holding his arm. "It's just the three of us. You don't need to help. Keep Cody company. I'm sure he's dying to play that game with you." This time, it wasn't just a quick pat. Her fingers lingered for a second. Leo's face flushed. It was summer, and he was wearing a short-sleeved shirt. Ms. Miller was in a thin silk blouse that draped elegantly over her frame, paired with a fitted black skirt that flared slightly at the hem, like a mermaid's tail, revealing slender, pale calves that had a soft, womanly curve. She was probably around 5'3", and even in her low, maybe 1-inch heels, she was still a little shorter than him. Stella Vance had an appearance score of 83. The system had rated Ms. Miller at 80, but for a boy who had never been in a relationship, a mature, sophisticated AD was proving to be devastatingly effective. He scrambled away to Cody's side, sat down, and whipped out his phone. Game now. Just play the game." The speed and memory buffs were still active. Their 24-hour clock was ticking. Might as well use them. Seeing Leo's red face and the sheen of sweat on his forehead, Cody said, "Hey, Leo, can you turn on the AC for me?" The remote's on the bookshelf. Leo stood and reached for a small box on the third shelf where Cody pointed. As he did, he noticed a knocked-over picture frame. He instinctively set it upright and saw a photo of Ms. Miller with a tall, strikingly handsome man. The man bore a slight resemblance to Cody, which explained why the kid was so good-looking. He had great genes. It had to be Ms. Miller's ex-husband. He had strong, classic features. A high forehead, a straight nose, nothing out of place. Leo guessed he was over 6 feet tall, with a lean build that made his sharp, expensive-looking clothes hang perfectly. He radiated success. It was just a casual snapshot, but in it Ms. Miller was wearing a dress. One arm linked through the man's, the other tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Her smile reached her eyes. Looking at the photo, you could almost feel that the breeze that day had been sweet. Leo stared for a moment before turning the frame back over, face down. It had probably been relegated to a dusty corner after the divorce. He hadn't expected her ex to be that handsome. Get a grip, he told himself. Stop thinking about it. It's crazy and totally out of line. He dove back into the world of League of Legends with Cody dominating the game. Less than 30 minutes later, Ms. Miller called them for lunch. Leo and Ms. Miller moved to help Cody up. Worried about hurting her son, she was hesitant, her hands hovering afraid to grip too tightly, but also terrified of letting him fall. But Leo, now equipped with his basic first aid skill, knew exactly what to do. With practiced care, he supported Cody, pulling him to his feet with one smooth motion. In her panic, Ms. Miller lost her balance and grabbed onto Leo's arm for support. Leo froze. He'd almost sent Cody flying. Ms. Miller, it's okay, don't move, he said, his voice steady. I've got him. I'm stronger than I look. Once Cody was settled at the table, they sat down to eat. The system's timer had been flashing in his mind's eye for a while now. 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Lunch. Eat a full meal for all-day energy. The spread was incredible. Scrambled eggs with bright red cherry tomatoes, rich and savory pulled pork, a clear chicken and vegetable soup, sautéed green beans, and pan-seared tofu. It was a feast for the eyes and smelled, even better than it looked, a world away from the mass-produced aroma of the dining hall. This was real, home-cooked food. Leo looked up at Ms. Miller. A stray wisp of hair was stuck to her cheek, damp from the kitchen's heat. She tried to brush it away twice without success and finally gave up. Leo didn't know what came over him, but on some bizarre impulse, he reached across the table and gently tucked the strand behind her ear. Laura Miller jumped, her eyes darting instantly to Cody. Seeing him completely absorbed in his pulled pork, she let out a quiet breath. She turned back to Leo, who was grinning at her like a fool, the picture of a well-behaved student. It was strange. Yesterday, she'd barely registered him, a quiet, average-looking kid. Today, she found herself noticing the clean lines of his face, the clarity in his eyes. He was actually quite handsome. I must be losing my mind, she thought, shaking her head. The stress from my ex is making me see things. Just then, a notification pinged in Leo's mind. Host has exceeded expectations on the child care task and received sincere gratitude. Reward: 1 millimeter of growth, applicable to any body part. Height: Leo thought immediately, a grin spreading across his face. He was now Leo Foster, 5'8", 2-inch. What are you daydreaming about? Eat, Ms. Miller said, her tone gently chiding. Her own strange thoughts vanished as she looked at the goofy kid smiling to himself. Right, sir, Ms. Miller. A growing boy can eat a horse. Leo devoured his food, fighting Cody for the last piece of pork. He soaked up every last drop of the savory sauces with his rice. The eggs were fluffy. The tomatoes added a perfect touch of acidity. The pulled pork was divine, the fat rendered until it was translucent and melted in his mouth, perfectly seasoned. The green beans were crisp and vibrant. The tofu, simply pan-seared and sprinkled with salt, was crispy on the outside while retaining its soft, delicate flavor inside. He could have eaten another plate of it by himself. The soup was light and clean, the broth sweet and clear. After he finished, he felt a strange urge to cry. It was just that good. His own family ran a small diner, but ironically, his meals were usually an afterthought. They were busiest during mealtimes, so he'd often just grab whatever was left over. He remembered eating better when he was a kid, before the diner, back when his parents worked factory jobs. They'd come home and cook a big dinner, the three of them eating together, listening to them gossip about work, and occasionally asking him about school. This meal felt like that. It felt like home. In fact, it was even better. What kind of idiot would divorce a woman who can cook like this? He wondered. All those good looks and not a single brain cell in his head. Curiosity piqued. He mentally asked the system for her details. Silver tier, single woman, Laura Miller. Net worth, $620,000. Intellect, 80. Culinary skills at intermediate beginner level, suitable for hosting. Appearance, above average, 80. Host, please continue to perform well. Good luck. He knew it. Last time he'd been too polite to really dig in. This time, feeling more comfortable with Cody, he let himself go. And it was glorious. A good meal really could change your whole mood. When they were done, Leo started to clear the plates, but Ms. Miller stopped him again, pressing him back into his chair. Go play with Cody, she insisted. Leo felt a little bad about getting a 9-year-old hooked on video games, especially since his speed buff wasn't permanent. What if he came back and couldn't live up to the hype? But since the kid had just earned him another millimeter of height, he decided to indulge him. They played with Legos instead. Boys never really grow up. Cody, age 9, and Leo, age 21, were completely absorbed in building a massive ship. When Laura came out of the kitchen after cleaning up, she saw them sitting on the floor, heads bent together in concentration, and couldn't help but smile. She retrieved a box from a living room cabinet and waited until they'd finished their masterpiece. Cody, it's time for your nap, she said softly. And Leo needs to get back for his afternoon classes. Cody was content and didn't argue. The new dressing was much more comfortable than the last one, and he felt a lot better. He carefully shifted onto the couch to lie down. "Leo," he said, "can you help me with my bandage next time, too?" "Sure thing. Get some sleep and listen to your mom. See ya." Leo waited for Cody to get settled before heading out. Laura gently closed the bedroom door, and suddenly it was just the two of them in the quiet living room. An unexpected tension filled the air. "Oh, well, Miss Miller, I should get going," Leo stammered, his voice feeling weak and wispy. He desperately missed his clear voice buff. Right now, he felt like he sounded pathetic and unconfident. "Wait." Her tone was a little sharper now that they were alone. "Try these on." Leo sat down, confused, as she placed a black and white shoebox in front of him. He opened it to find a pair of sneakers with a prominent N logo. New Balance. They had to be worth a few $100. He felt a prickle of embarrassment, but then reminded himself that her ex was a model handsome success story. There was no way she was interested in him. He was just being crazy. Reassured, he obediently took off his old shoes, revealing gray socks. Thank God, he thought. No holes and they don't smell. He slipped on the new sneakers. Laura knelt and pressed the toe. Perfect fit. I bought them for Cody's dad a while ago. As Cody probably told you, we just got divorced. They fit you, so you should take them. Otherwise, they'll just go to waste. Leo looked down at her kneeling in front of him, seeing only the curve of her back, the line of her hair. "No, I can't. This isn't right," he said, his words tumbling out in a nervous jumble. "I said it's right, so it's right. Wear them." She decisively took his old sneakers, put them in the box, and tore the tag off the new ones already on his feet. Leo left the faculty housing in a daze, wearing a brand new pair of sneakers and carrying his old ones in a box, his head spinning. When he got back to the dorm, Jordan spotted the shoes immediately. Jordan was a certified sneakerhead, and his eyes went wide. "Leo, no, wait, bro. Dude, where did you get those?" he shrieked. "Those are the New Balance X Joe Fresh Goods 990 V4S. The intro colorway. They're impossible to get. I've been trying to score a pair for months. Those things are going for like $400. Leo froze. His feet suddenly felt very, very hot. "My sister gave them to me," Leo said, the first plausible lie that came to mind. He couldn't think of anything else. In that moment, he deeply regretted not putting his last stat point into intelligence. Why had he been so obsessed with appearance? So what if someone called him ugly? It was confirmation. His intelligence score of 6 was so low he couldn't even recognize his own deficiency. Jordan was practically drooling over the shoes. "I gotta get a pair." "Dude, those make you look taller. And they just look sick. No wonder, it's a collab. I need them." He was already frantically checking sneaker websites and messaging his contacts, not even bothering to ask which sister Leo was talking about. Leo wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead. His heart had been pounding. Did I just lose a morality point for lying to my roommate? It just felt wrong to say Ms. Miller gave them to him. That would require explaining the divorce and everything else, which felt like gossiping. But accepting gifts was getting out of hand. First, the fruit, which was already pushing it, hundreds of dollars worth. Now, a pair of limited edition sneakers that cost more than his monthly budget. His moral compass was spinning. Jordan was simple enough. The non-existent sister excuse would probably fly. Sean was even simpler. He was too wrapped up in his own insecurities to question it. But Alex had been around the block. He'd see through it in a second. Leo wasn't sure what made him more ashamed, accepting the gift in the first place, or the fear of getting caught in the lie. Turns out being a trophy husband wasn't as easy as it sounded. Where's Sean? Went to grab food. After a whirlwind morning, Leo was exhausted. The system's timer shifted to a gentle glow. 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Nap. A midday rest keeps you sharp all day. Leo happily flopped onto his bed. It was amazing how easily the system could manipulate him. Yesterday, it had him deep cleaning the dorm for an hour, leaving him dead tired. Today, it was telling him to nap, and he felt a surge of pure joy. He grabbed his phone first. He hadn't spent much time on it yesterday, and now it felt magnetically appealing. He scrolled through his Instagram feed. So screen-starved, he even found himself watching the ads with interest. An ad for a new Huawei electric car. Wrong demographic, guys. Sending that to a broke college student like him? Maybe they were hiring. Then again, the idea of working for a tech giant like Huawei was a pipe dream. His school was a nobody even within the state. Maybe he could get a job in security. He closed the ad and, out of habit, opened TikTok. The first video on his For You page was from Sean's I'm Not a Simp account. He saw that Sean had deleted every single video he'd ever posted of other girls. The only one left was the video of Leo. A single video on a single account dedicated entirely to him. A cold chill ran down Leo's spine. Sean wasn't simping for girls anymore. He'd gone cold turkey, deleting every video he'd ever painstakingly made. And now he was bestowing his singular focus on Leo. Leo squeezed his eyes shut. Nap time. He couldn't watch anymore. The half-hour timer was a glaring reminder. He put his phone down, expecting to toss and turn, but he was out almost instantly, a soft snore escaping his lips. Seeing Leo asleep, Jordan popped in his headphones and killed the music playing from his speakers. He was still hunting for the shoes online, but the official site was all pre-orders and raffles. A guy in one of his sneaker groups was selling a pair, but he didn't know the seller and was worried they were fakes. He'd just have to ask Leo about his sister when he woke up. The door creaked open. Sean started to speak, but Jordan quickly put a finger to his lips and pointed at Leo's bed. He's asleep. Keep it down. Sean had brought back 2 meals from the dining hall. He'd been starving earlier. If it wasn't for Leo's fruit, he would have passed out from low blood sugar. The dining hall was way cheaper than takeout. Jordan took his meal box, sent Sean the money, and ate while scrolling on his phone. Sean, however, was past the point of hunger. He set his food aside and went back to editing. He thought the video was done, but his high hopes for it made him want to tweak it just one more time. He kept fiddling, feeling like he was pouring every ounce of his skill into it. He'd studied what made TikToks go viral. You couldn't just edit it like a professional concert video. People would scroll right past. You're not a celebrity. Why would anyone watch you? Even clips from actual celebrity concerts often flopped. His video from yesterday had done well, he reasoned, because it was unique. The organization niche wasn't as oversaturated. But singing? That lane was packed with superstars and legends. No matter how good you were, breaking through was nearly impossible. He kept the title simple. My legendary roommate, #singing sensation, just found out my senior roommate is a vocal god. Since Jessica and her friends were in the background, he'd even messaged them to get their permission. The video opened with a shot of the lavish karaoke buffet, then cut to Leo stuffing his face with noodles, looking like a chipmunk with his cheeks puffed out. When Alex introduces him, he just makes a muffled noise, unable to speak. Then, a sharp transition, Leo, sitting in a dimly lit corner, microphone in hand. The time limit meant he couldn't include the full songs, but he thought the contrast worked. One moment, Leo was this dorky, slightly dumb-looking kid, and the next, shrouded in shadows, he looked mysterious and handsome. The second he started singing, the transformation was complete. It was like listening to a professional recording. Maybe the technique wasn't perfect, but his voice was so clear, so full of emotion, that you couldn't help but want to hear more. Sean had re-edited it 1,000 times, but he kept coming back to the first version. He was just spinning his wheels. He had to let it go. He took a deep breath and hit the bright red post button. Finally, he could relax. He opened his own meal box, braised eggplant and rice. He ate half of it, then picked up his phone again and changed his account name. I'm not a simp felt a little too controversial. He changed it to my legendary roommate. That felt better. He put his phone down and focused on his food. A bite of eggplant, a mouthful of rice. It was delicious. The sharp buzz of his alarm woke Leo up. He felt fantastic. The nap, supercharged by the time dilation buff, had been incredibly restorative. He was once again a vibrant, energetic young man. As he stretched, a system notification appeared. Host consumed lunch with great joy and reverence, rewarding the body with dopamine. Reward, basic athletic enhancement buff, 1 day. Activates host's latent athletic talent, allowing for fluid and powerful movement. Showcase your strong physique and become a star on the court. Who could resist? 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Play tennis, a versatile sport for all ages, from 6 to 90. A great opportunity to show off your powerful arms, swift serves, and agile returns. Master this sport, and you could be a trophy husband for life. Leo blinked. Another useless piece of knowledge had been uploaded to his brain. Apparently, tennis was the key to securing financial support across multiple age demographics. He'd actually taken tennis as an elective his sophomore year. The whole dorm had planned to take it together, lured by rumors of a class full of beautiful girls in tennis skirts. In the end, Jordan switched to film appreciation because it had even more girls and required less effort. Alex had gone to check out the tennis courts, met a sophomore with long legs, and promptly started dating her. So he dropped out too. His personal code forbade him from pursuing 2 girls in the same place at the same time. That left Leo and Sean. They stuck with it because they'd already bought rackets in a group deal for over $100. It seemed like a waste not to go. In retrospect, learning a sport in college was an incredible deal. Out in the real world, private tennis lessons cost hundreds of dollars per session, not to mention court fees. At school, you got professional coaching for free, and the courts were always available. Leo hadn't had this epiphany yet. He was still in the thick of it. Usually, you only appreciate those things after they're gone. While Leo had been sleeping, Sean had posted the singing video. It didn't immediately blow up. There was no cascade of likes, no viral explosion. It felt just like his old posts. For half an hour, Sean refreshed the analytics page 800 times, his thumb twitching every few seconds. But the views and likes crept up at a snail's pace. It was better than before. He was getting dozens of likes instead of single digits. But it was a far cry from the viral hit he needed to make this a career. His eyes burned from staring at the screen. He couldn't believe it. The dorm cleaning video was a throwaway, something he'd made on a whim. This video, he poured his heart into. It had a story, a visual arc, and Leo's singing was genuinely special. It was the best thing he had ever created in his 23 years of life, and the response was, meh, what's wrong? He wondered frantically. Maybe it's just not peak hours. It'll pick up tonight. He tried to reassure himself, but his hand kept refreshing the page, searching for new comments. Finally, one appeared, a string of 3 doghead emojis. What did that even mean? When Leo woke up, he could tell Sean was spiraling again. His leg was bouncing uncontrollably under the desk, making the whole table vibrate. If both his hands weren't in plain sight, Leo would have wondered what he was doing. Sean, let's go. Time for tennis. Sean didn't want to move. He wanted to stare at the numbers. But he refreshed the page one more time, and there were still no new comments. A wave of dejection washed over him. Then he saw Leo, awake and full of energy, and forced himself to rally. He couldn't let Leo down. Even if this video flopped, there would be another one. Persistence was key. I have to keep trying, Sean told himself, a silent pep talk. I've got nothing to lose. I have to stick with this for at least 6 months. If it doesn't work by then, I can give up. As the oldest in the dorm, he had to set an example. Let's go, he said, grabbing his camera. I'll get some new footage of you. Leo grabbed the rackets. The karaoke bar had been too dark, which might have hurt the last video's performance. The tennis court, on the other hand, was bright, clean, and spacious, perfect for filming. As he and Sean stepped onto the court, the system's mechanical voice chimed in his head, detecting a bronze-tier, single woman 20 meters from host. Net worth, $120,000. Intellect, average 60. Appearance, above average 79. Sees every opportunity to impress. Good luck. Leo looked up and saw her, a girl in a matching white tennis skirt and top, swinging her racket with a wide, confident grin. When she saw them, her grin widened. Foster, she yelled. You guys playing? Come on, let's have a match. I haven't crushed anyone in days, and I'm in a foul mood. It was Paige Kennedy. There was no time to escape. Leo braced himself and walked onto the court. If you want me to pursue her, I'll just die right now, he transmitted mentally to the system. Paige was from the honors college and had been in his tennis elective. From the very first day, she had made it her personal mission to antagonize him, dubbing him Foster in a way that made it sound like an insult. During drills, she would annihilate him, running him ragged across the court. She insisted on being his practice partner every single class. She had clearly played tennis in high school, and she took a sadistic pleasure in destroying a beginner like him. One time, he spent the entire class chasing her shots, and his back was so sore the next day, he could barely get out of bed. The first time, he was too polite to refuse. After that, refusing was simply not an option. Leo rarely disliked anyone, but he made an exception for Paige Kennedy. So what if she was a rich kid from the honors college? Did that give her the right to look down on people? Thanks to her relentless torture, however, tennis was actually one of his best subjects. If he didn't improve, he'd be stuck chasing balls all day. Please maintain a professional perspective on potential patrons. Bronze tier single woman, Paige Kennedy, 19. Net worth, $120,000. Off-campus condo valued at $112,000. Spending money, $8,000. Intellect, average, 60. Passionate about sports. Lacks interest in academics. Appearance, above average, 79. Good bone structure, healthy physique. She's only 19. She told me she was 22 and made me call her Paige. I don't care if she owns property. This is a hard no. She hates my guts. She looks down on me. Never even looks me in the eye. Just orders me around. Leo waved his racket at her dismissively. Sorry, Paige. I'm playing with my roommate today. Maybe next time. The system's voice immediately pinged in his head. Congratulations, host. Your strategy with bronze tier single woman Paige Kennedy has been remarkably effective. Favorability has reached 77. Please continue your excellent work and strive for new heights. Leo froze. System, are you broken? System, no wonder you're single. She likes you, you idiot. Can't you tell? In the end, Leo got roped into playing with Paige. Sean wanted to film, and as soon as Paige heard the word TikTok, she got even more excited. Come on, Foster, she crowed, bouncing on the balls of her feet. Let Annie Paige absolutely destroy you. Today's goal is to make you chase 100 balls. Leo stared at her. This is what the system calls liking me. Her idea of affection is torment. Looking at her smug grin, he felt a surge of determination. Okay, it's about time you got a taste of your own medicine. His tennis skills were already decent, but with the athletic enhancement buff, he felt like a pro. Even with his cheap, Group-I racket, he could probably demolish her. 100 balls? We'll see who's doing the chasing. Standing on the sidelines, Sean couldn't resist checking his phone again. His heart sank. The video was still flatlining. It must be the visuals, he thought. The first shot is too dark. People probably just scroll past. TikTok was all about instant gratification. If you didn't hook them the first second, you lost them. The algorithm was brutal. It fed the rich and starved the poor. He felt like he'd failed Leo. He'd sung his heart out, and Sean had squandered it with a badly edited video. He was prone to this kind of self-blame, a habit born from his upbringing. His parents were simple village people who always assumed any problem was their own fault. Even though Sean was in college now, that deep-seated insecurity was etched into his bones. He rubbed his eyes and put his phone away. Time to work. He raised his camera, a simple model, but his most prized possession. He framed a shot of the indoor tennis court. It was a beautiful space. The high ceiling, the wide-open court, the clean lines on the floor. The bright yellow of the tennis balls popped against the green. The colors were vibrant and clean. He filmed Paige talking trash. He filmed Leo's silent, stoic response. Leo didn't like Paige, and neither did Sean. People like them, with their quiet insecurities, always felt a little wary around entitled princesses. Sean was just better at masking it, playing the part of the friendly simp, because a kind word could sometimes get you a free bottle of water. Leo was still young and hot-blooded, always needing to prove a point, which usually just got him crushed even harder. It was actually pretty funny to watch. Paige was younger than them. The honors college had some kind of prep program that let wealthy or connected kids enroll early. She reminded Sean of the girls back in his village, though their lives were worlds apart. The girls he knew were experts at planting rice, their hands calloused from work. Paige Kennedy was swinging a black, all-carbon professional tennis racket. Most pro rackets had a W logo and cost over $2,000. Hers had a 5-pointed star. It was a St. Laurent X Wilson collaboration. Someone in their class had said it cost over $6,000. College students were already well-versed in the language of brands. Sean didn't get it. Why did adding a brand name make the same thing so much more expensive? He guessed it was how rich people justified spending more money. But he couldn't just call them stupid, because those same rich people could buy a limited edition item and then sell it for a profit. Apparently, Paige's racket was no longer in production, and its price on the secondhand market had doubled. It was a strange world. A rich person could buy a $6,000 racket, play with it for a year, sell it for $12,000, and walk away with a profit. He and Leo had spent $136 on a Group-I racket that broke in 6 months. Then they spent another $106 on a new one, realizing the first time they'd been ripped off by a senior taking a $30 cut. Leo swung his $106 racket, getting a feel for it. His body felt powerful, though the racket itself now seemed a bit light. No matter. A true master never blames his tools. Seeing Sean filming, Paige got even more amped up. Hey, Foster, she yelled. I hear you started running lately. Let's make a bet. If you win, you can have my racket. If you lose, you have to run to the North Campus tomorrow morning, buy me breakfast, and deliver it to my dorm. A week ago, that would have infuriated Leo. Run all the way to her campus just to be her delivery boy? Who did she think she was? But now, with the system's "she likes you" revelation echoing in his head, things looked different. How does she know I've been running? She must be keeping tabs on me and buying a girl breakfast. Isn't that what boyfriends and simps do? He wasn't going to throw the match, though. Someone else could buy her breakfast. He wasn't interested. He couldn't stand this kind of affection, no matter how pretty she was. Right now, her legs weren't legs, her chest wasn't a chest, her high ponytail wasn't a high ponytail. In Leo's eyes, there was only one thing in front of him, his opponent. Game on. She served. He returned it. She sent it flying back, right at him. He stepped back, creating distance, and hit it back. She returned it again, this time to a far corner. He sprinted, met the ball, and sent it back over the net. For the first few volleys, Leo was just feeding her the ball, hitting it to places where she could easily return it. Paige, however, was showing off, hitting shots from every conceivable angle. But Leo returned every single one. Once he was warmed up, his body feeling loose and ready, he sent a blistering shot to her backhand corner. Paige swung. She missed. 15 love. Again, she yelled, her competitive spirit ignited. That was a fluke. Not bad, Foster. She'd taken the tennis elective out of boredom. She was good, having played since she was 6, and the class was an easy A. But on the first day, she'd noticed the skinny, quiet boy who was surprisingly fun to mess with. She'd been tormenting him ever since, and to his credit, he'd gotten better. He took it seriously, unlike the other slackers. But he was still no match for her. Until today, not only was he returning every shot, but he'd just hit a backhand she couldn't even touch. Interesting. Paige had natural athletic talent. She focused, her eyes narrowing. They rallied back and forth. 30 love, 40 love. Leo felt a light sweat break out on his skin. It was a good feeling, like hitting his stride on a long run. Paige's face was flushed, her expression intense. The ball flew past her, just kissing the hem of her skirt. She missed. Another shot came at her. She thought it was going out, but it landed just inside the line. She missed. She missed again. On the third 40 love point, Leo saw her bend over, gasping for air, her usual arrogance gone. Want to take a break? He offered. Try to be magnanimous. Or we could just call it. Paige wiped the sweat from her forehead. Break. I'm about to get my period. My game's off, she huffed. Let me rest, and then I'm going to destroy you. So vulgar, Leo thought. She talks rougher than I do. What a waste of a pretty face. Sean kept filming, a silent observer. Leo's game was explosive, beautiful to watch. He focused the camera mostly on Leo, but got a few shots of Paige too. He couldn't play like that himself, but he could imagine being that cool, athletic kid, clean-cut but with a hidden power. An ordinary college student, shining on the court. 15 love. 30 love. Foster, would it kill you to let me win one? That shot was inhuman. No. 40 love. All right, that's enough. I win, Leo said. He was breathing hard, but a huge, confident grin spread across his face. With his recent haircut, no bangs covered his eyes, and his face was clear and bright. Paige stomped over to him, furious, and saw his triumphant smirk. I won, he said cheerfully. I don't want a racket, and I'm not buying you breakfast. Get your future boyfriend to do it. And stop lying about your age. I'm about to graduate, so I won't have to play with you anymore anyway. Her eyes turned red. With a furious scream, she threw a racket at him. You're an asshole, Leo Foster. I said it's yours, so take it. You're not allowed to refuse. Then she turned and ran. Dude, I think she's crying, Sean said, lowering his camera. Should you, go after her? No way. What? She gets a pass because she's crying. She torture me like that every single class. 40 love every time. She can dish it out, but she can't take it. I'm not comforting her. I'm not a simp. Sean winced. Was that shot at me? Leo picked up the all-carbon, 5-star, St. Laurent X Wilson professional tennis racket. He gave it a few practice swings. It had a different weight, a different feel from his own. It was substantial, the grip perfectly molded to his hand. Just holding it made him feel like his handsomeness stat had gone up a few points. After a moment, he set it aside and picked up his own racket. He didn't want Paige's. In fact, he kind of hated it. It was the instrument of his torture, the weapon that had defeated him time and time again. Call it transference, but he held a grudge. A man has to have his principles, even a trophy husband in training. And his number one principle was, I'm not taking handouts from someone who treats me like dirt. Sean, however, was fascinated, aiming his camera at the abandoned racket. Dude, I heard this thing is worth over 10 grand now. You can't just leave it there. If it gets damaged, we could never afford to replace it. Leo was about to say it was just a racket, but then he remembered the price tag. 10 grand. Between the two of them, they probably couldn't scrape together $1,000. Okay, you hold on to it for now, Sean. I'll give it back to her as soon as I can. He was determined to refuse this particular handout. Indulging in every luxury would only make him soft. The hour flew by. Playing tennis had lifted his spirits immensely. There was something about physical exertion that just burned away negativity. His mind felt clearer, and he was genuinely happy. Sean captured his current expression on camera. In the lens, Leo actually looked kind of handsome. Not in a stunning, stop-you-in-your-tracks way, but in a compelling, quietly confident way. With new footage in hand, Sean was ready to head back and edit. The video he'd posted at noon was still dead in the water. He'd pretty much given up on it. An hour had passed with only one new comment. He was starting to think the platform was broken. Maybe his analysis was all wrong. He decided he would just post the full, unedited clips of Leo's 2 songs. No fancy cuts, just a raw performance. Maybe someone would appreciate how good the songs were, perfect for listening to while working. He'd title it, Try Not to Cry Challenge. He strode back toward the dorm, feeling a lump in his throat. He was the one who wanted to cry. A few steps later, Leo caught up to him. Sean. Sean turned. Don't get discouraged, Leo said. If it doesn't go viral, it's not a big deal. The worst-case scenario is we're right back where we started. And we were doing fine, right? Sean forced a smile, but it felt stiff and unnatural. It'll catch on, Leo. We just have to keep at it. We'll find our way. We will. He turned and walked away quickly. He didn't want to get emotional, didn't want to show how scared he was. He was terrified that all his effort, all his planning for this one big push would amount to nothing. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He was afraid of hard work that led nowhere. But for people like him, that was pretty much the story of their lives. 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Study accounting. A man who can balance the books is irresistible. What wealthy woman wouldn't want to sponsor a man with financial literacy? Leo was still buzzing from his workout, feeling positive and motivated. He saw the new schedule and was ready to tackle it. He headed to the classroom where he'd studied yesterday, but beat a hasty retreat when he saw two figures with short hair locked in a passionate embrace in a back corner. He couldn't even tell if they were men or women. When he'd first started at Northwood, the school handbook explicitly forbade romantic relationships between students. By his sophomore year, the rule had been amended to simply forbid romantic relationships. He never found out what happened in between, and he didn't dare ask. Honestly, a ban wasn't a bad idea. All this public affection was seriously detrimental to the mental health of single guys like him. It was distracting. He found another empty classroom where two other students were studying intently, clearly grad school applicants. At a school like Northwood, you didn't need to try this hard unless you were aiming for a master's degree or using studying as a cover for a date. Leo took out his freshman accounting textbook and set his water bottle on the desk. He'd left his racket with Sean, but was holding on to Paige's, planning to return it. As soon as he sat down, the system's voice sounded in his head. Host has completed the tennis activity with immersive focus and earned the respect of his opponent. Reward: 1 millimeter of growth, applicable to any body part. He was surprised he'd earned Paige's respect. He figured he'd just infuriated her. She was a complicated girl. This time, Leo gave it some thought. He was curious. Instead of height, another millimeter would be unnoticeable. He chose eyelashes. They were short to begin with, so an extra millimeter should be visible. Then again, he wondered if a guy keeps adding to his eyelashes, will he turn into some kind of freak? He was starting to see a pattern. If he completed a task and got positive feedback, this was a likely reward. He'd have more chances. He allocated the 0.1 centimeter to his eyelashes. The average human eyelash is 6 to 12 millimeters long. Host's eyelashes are above average at 8 mm, with a 1 millimeter increase. The new average is 9 millimeters, categorized as long and thick. This will make the eyes appear larger and more expressive. Congratulations, host, on taking another step toward becoming a successful trophy husband. Leo opened the front-facing camera on his phone. A pair of eyes with noticeably thick lashes stared back at him. He was honestly a little startled. The change was much more obvious than it was with his height. His blinks felt like the flutter of tiny fans, and his eyes did look bigger, more intense. He finally understood why girls use mascara. After staring for a moment, a chill ran down his spine. This was bad. Since when did he care about how long his eyelashes were? This was veering into weird territory. Was this the trophy husband system or the Sicilian training system? The next time he got a stat point, it was going straight to intelligence. His lack of it was becoming a serious problem. He put his phone away. The basic memory capsule was still active for one last hour. Time to grind. He dove back into his freshman accounting textbook. The 4 hours yesterday had been a good review. Today was about reinforcement. The focus state was amazing. No distractions, no urge to check his phone or play games. The most efficient learning really does happen when you're young. After the workout, his brain felt refreshed, ready to absorb more information. It was almost as good as a study buff. He powered through the hour, standing up twice to stretch. The 3 tables of students in the room were arranged in a silent, studious triangle. It was peaceful. He'd read that 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. was a peak period for mental activity. After finishing accounting, he switched to English, putting in another 4-hour buff's worth of intensity. By the end, his brain felt completely wrung out, but in a satisfying way. He looked up and was shocked to see Paige Kennedy sitting directly across from him. She'd changed into a long, tiered sundress, and her hair, now dry, fell in loose curls around her shoulders. A sweet, warm fragrance wafted from her like freshly baked rose pastries. Suddenly, Leo was starving. Leo stared at the fragrant girl in front of him, his mind a blank. The system was busy calculating his rewards. Host has proactively studied accounting, reinforcing his knowledge. Reward, memory enhancement buff, 1 day. Increases memory by 100%, no side effects. Congratulations, host, for grasping the essence of learning. Everything else is secondary. Reward, animal magnetism buff, 1 day. Learning to interact with animals will prove to be a powerful asset. A man who is good with pets shines brightly in the eyes of a wealthy woman. Congratulations, host. Your strategy with bronze tier single woman Paige Kennedy has been remarkably effective. Favorability has reached 78. Please continue your excellent work and strive for new heights. Leo was still processing. The honors college was on the other side of campus. How had Paige managed to run back, shower, change, and get all the way over here in under 2 hours? Did she have a time dilation buff too? Perhaps he stared a little too long, because a faint blush crept up Paige's neck. A girl goes to great lengths to look effortlessly beautiful, hoping you'll just think she is beautiful, not that she tried hard to be beautiful. The last thing she wants is for you to ask about the process. Leo, who hadn't even unlocked the beginner trophy husband achievement, lacked this level of emotional intelligence. His 4 years of singlehood were a testament to that. Paige, are you a superhero? He asked bluntly. How did you get here so fast? You already showered and everything. I have a condo on the student strip, she explained, her cheeks puffing out slightly. Oh, Leo thought. So it's a financial superpower. Paige had messaged Sean to find out where Leo was. She was still fuming about the tennis match. But for some reason, her first instinct after storming off hadn't been to confront him, but to go home, shower, and put on her favorite dress. Good, you're here. I was going to look for you anyway, said Leo, the master of romance. You can take your racket back. Every word was a slap in the face. Paige's cheeks puffed out like a goldfish's. She wanted to scream. She'd liked him from the start, but her way of showing it was to constantly mess with him, mostly because he was just so infuriatingly dense. In the quiet afternoon classroom, under the bright fluorescent lights, the boy in front of her had impossibly long eyelashes and an expression of pure innocence. I told you the racket is yours. Stop being so difficult, she snapped. But you have to buy me a snack. I'm emotionally distressed, and if I don't get some comfort food, I might get sick from stress, and if I get sick, you'll have to pay my medical bills for life. Leo blinked. Lady, do you hear yourself? He was a simple young man. He heard the word stress, but his brain latched onto bills and for life. His face turned bright red. 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Break, balance work, and rest for a long life. Patrons are temporary, but a long-lived trophy husband is forever. Seeing the new, gentle timer, Leo didn't dare look at Paige. She was probably around 5'5", with a round face that made her look slightly softer than she was. In reality, her figure was incredible, a tiny waist and a full chest. Her lips were full and naturally red, which always made Leo think she was wearing makeup. She wasn't. She just rushed over, still angry about losing the one thing she was best at. Today she was wearing a sleeveless sundress, a cute style that only showed her arms, but Leo's brain was more than capable of filling in the blanks. Let's go. To the strip, he said, his voice a little hoarse. What do you want to eat? He asked, mentally calculating the $300 left in his bank account and praying she wouldn't pick somewhere too expensive. I haven't decided. We'll see when we get there. Paige was wearing a pair of simple flip-flops. As she stood up, one got caught on the leg of her chair, and she stumbled, instinctively grabbing Leo's shirt to steady herself. He watched as she fished for the sandal with her foot. It was an odd design, with a big, red fabric rose on the strap. Her feet were delicate and pretty, her toes perfectly aligned and tipped with a natural, healthy pink. The garish rose should have looked tacky, but on her feet, it somehow worked. His gaze lingered a little too long. Paige smacked his arm. What are you staring at? You like my feet? Let's go. She tugged on his shirt, pulling him toward the door. Let go, Leo hissed, conscious of the other students. We're in public. No way. You might run off. As they bickered their way out of the classroom, the 2 remaining students sighed. Another one lost to the temptations of romance. Dating is a dead end, young man. You've chosen the narrow path. On the student strip, which was bustling with afternoon traffic, Paige made Leo buy her a bubble tea. I want grass jelly, peanuts, rose honey, orange peel, mochi, and dates. Yeah, that's it. That's it, Leo thought. Is it even bubble tea anymore? It's a whole meal. He relayed the ridiculously long order to the cashier, who dutifully wrote it down. Leo just got a plain grass jelly milk tea, for himself. Your memory's pretty good, Paige said, swinging her small purse so it tapped against her flowy skirt. You know, you look kind of cute when you're studying. The long skirt hid everything but her slender ankles and pink and white feet. Her feet are prettier than her face, Leo thought, then immediately clamped down on the idea. If he said that out loud, he'd definitely get punched. While they were waiting, Leo glanced down the street and saw a familiar couple walking hand in hand. It was Alex, holding hands with Jessica Monroe. They passed by a nearby shop without even looking in his direction. Wow, just yesterday, Alex had been telling them he'd broken up with his sophomore girlfriend because he didn't want to hold her back. Today, he was already making progress with a senior. Alex was ruthlessly efficient. Jordan was going to be crushed. He had a thing for Jessica. Jessica seemed to see him and offered a small smile and a nod. Alex, the dog, was too busy staring at his new girl to notice anything else. For some reason, Leo felt a pang of guilt. This morning, he'd had breakfast with Jessica's roommate, Stella. This afternoon, he was having bubble tea with Paige from the Honors College. His schedule was starting to look suspiciously like a player's. He was worse than Alex. Suddenly, a massive golden retriever came bounding toward them. Leo had a mild fear of big dogs and instinctively moved to step aside. But Paige was standing right there, oblivious. His sense of morality kicked in, overriding his fear. He planted his feet and stood in front of her. The dog, a solid 80 pounds of fluff and muscle, slammed into him, planting its front paws on his shoulders and whining happily. Leo looked down and was greeted by the sight of a very pink belly and the undeniable fact that this was a male dog. "Moose, behave, get down," Paige's voice called out from behind him. The retriever immediately dropped to all fours and started wagging its tail furiously at Paige. Leo let out a shaky breath. Even Paige's dog picked on him. He hadn't stood his ground out of bravery. He'd been too terrified to move. As Paige knelt to hug her dog, ruffling its fur, Leo cautiously reached out and patted Moose on his big, blocky head. "Paige," he said, a sudden thought occurring to him. "Moose hasn't been neutered yet, has he?" "Oh, right, I keep forgetting. It's fine, I'll take him this weekend." Moose suddenly looked up at Leo, his big brown eyes glistening with betrayal. Paige's bubble tea concoction was so full of toppings, she had to eat it with a spoon. She took a big scoop of the grass jelly mixture, and a look of pure bliss spread across her face. For a moment, with her eyes crinkled in a smile, she was genuinely beautiful. Leo was too busy to notice. Moose, the golden retriever, was relentlessly rubbing his big, dumb head against Leo's leg. It had to be the animal magnetism buff at work. Leo would never normally be this bold around such a large dog. But if he knew the dog wasn't going to bite him, then he was all in. Paige, spooning her dessert, watched as Leo completely ignored her in favor of her dog. He was bent over, his long eyelashes casting shadows on his cheeks, his short hair neat, his face clean. He was still wearing a plain t-shirt, but he didn't look sloppy. He looked handsome, much more handsome than she remembered. The dog wasn't trying to bite him. In fact, it was practically purring under his touch. Leo suddenly felt a pang of guilt for reminding Paige about the neutering appointment. "Sorry, buddy, but a stranger's dog is the best kind of dog to pet." "They let you have dogs in the honors dorms?" he asked. "No, but I have my condo on the strip, so I can keep him there. I have a cleaner come by every day to look after him." "How much does it cost to keep a dog like this?" Leo asked, stunned. "A dedicated caretaker? Not that much. The cleaner is only $25 a day, just to feed and walk him." She must have been slacking lately, though, because she left him at the shop downstairs. He probably saw me and ran over. He's a good boy, usually. A dog walker for $25 a day? That was $750 a month. Not to mention food, grooming. Leo, whose monthly budget was less than that, felt the joy of petting Moose's head begin to fade. It was a dog's life, all right, and his life wasn't it. He couldn't sink into this pit of despair. He had to get back to studying. "Paige, I have a class tonight. I should probably go," he said, noticing she had somehow finished the entire massive cup of toppings without her stomach exploding. Paige's face fell. "You're a senior. What class could you possibly have? At least come up with a better excuse." "No, I want to eat something else," she declared. Leo was about to refuse. No one could stand in the way of his progress. But then the timer in his head shifted. 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Learn to care for a pet. Knowing how to handle pets is a fundamental skill for a trophy husband. She brings home the bacon. You stay beautiful, walk the dog, cook, clean, and care for aging pets. The system couldn't be more obvious if it tried. Leo shamelessly sat back down and resumed petting Moose's head. It was surprisingly therapeutic. The dog seemed to enjoy it too, letting out happy little grunts. This couldn't be good for its fur, though. He got up, took the dog and its owner to a food cart, and bought 2 crepe-like savory pancakes and 5 hot dogs. He gave one of the pancakes to Paige and was about to offer the hot dogs to Moose. "Oh no, Moose doesn't eat stuff like that," Paige said quickly. "He's very well behaved. He only eats his special dog food." Before the words were even fully out of her mouth, Moose was expertly snatching the hot dogs from Leo's hand, devouring them one by one, his whole body wiggling with delight. Leo just looked at Paige. "You want to maybe ask your dog for his opinion on that?" Paige blushed. The cleaner must have been giving him table scraps. She'd bought bags of expensive kibble for him. No wonder he's overweight, she thought with a pang of guilt. She shouldn't have brought him to campus just because she wanted to play with him. She clearly wasn't taking good care of him. Leo and Moose finished their food at roughly the same time. Leo then took Moose to the university's main field to run off some energy. It was the perfect place to walk a dog. Huge, wide open, and lots of soft grass. Moose was ecstatic, tearing across the field in joyful loops. Leo found a tennis ball in his backpack and threw it. Moose happily chased it down and brought it back. The dog was tireless, its happiness practically radiating into the air. Leo was so focused on playing with Moose that he completely forgot about Paige. He ran with the dog, letting it chase him, and sometimes the dog would tackle him, as if they were playing a game of tag. They rolled around on the grass together. Leo figured out the secret to dogs. Just treat them like 4 or 5-year-old boys. A golden retriever was a bit smarter, so maybe more like a 7-year-old. He and the 7-year-old golden retriever had a great time. As long as Leo engaged, Moose was overjoyed, his tail thumping against the ground. Paige sat on the grass, her long skirt spread out around her, watching them. The boy and the dog, running and playing, both with huge smiles on their faces. For some reason, it made her incredibly happy. The late afternoon sun, between 4:30 and 5:30, cast a golden glow that was perfect for portraits, softening features and making skin look flawless. Paige took out her phone to get a picture of Moose for her family, but she ended up with a camera roll full of photos of Leo. When Leo finally tired himself out, he came and sat on the grass next to her. As he did, he saw her lean forward to snap another photo, revealing a tiny sliver of pale pink lace at the hem of her shorts under her dress. His face, already flushed from running, grew even hotter. It was weird. He'd never felt anything for Paige before, but now that he knew she might actually like him, everything felt different. They had played tennis together for a whole semester. Her tennis skirt was never very long, and he'd seen the edge of her shorts plenty of times when she jumped for a ball, but it had never registered. "Foster," she said, lowering her phone. "Could you help me look after Moose starting tomorrow? He really likes you." Leo shook his head. No, the buff wasn't permanent, and he needed to focus on his own improvement. A college student has his pride. He would not be a simp, not even for an actual dog. "I'll pay you. $50 an hour." Leo scoffed. "You think I could be bought?" 80. Deal. Paige fished a key out of her tiny purse. A keychain with an ugly little doll dangled from it. "Here, I have class tomorrow, so you can just let yourself in. I'll text you the address. Just walk Moose. And don't touch any of my stuff," she added with a grin. "Seriously? What would I touch? Don't go rummaging through my clothes or my stockings or my underwear," she said, as if it were a perfectly reasonable concern. Leo just stared at her. "You're something else. What if Moose gets into it?" he shot back. Evening settled over the campus. The sky was a deep blue, streaked with clouds that looked like torn pieces of cotton candy. The young man walked through it all wearing a pair of black and white New Balance X Joe Freshgoods 990 V4S, carrying a St. Laurent X Wilson all-carbon professional tennis racket, with the key to a condo on the student strip tucked safely in his pocket. He felt buoyant. So this was the power of money. It smelled like luxury. He felt like everyone was staring at him, at his shoes, at the racket hanging from his arm. In that moment, he felt preternaturally handsome, the center of attention, floating above the common folk. He looked at the other students and saw only broke losers. A wave of superiority washed over him. "Leo, Foster, dude bro, Mr. Foster. CEO Foster." He shook his head. CEO Foster sounded old. Then he blinked, and the fantasy shattered. He was just walking across campus. Students milled about, mostly in groups, their laughter and chatter filling the air. No one was looking at him. The evening breeze rustled the leaves, cicadas buzzed, and underclassmen ran past him, full of life. For a terrifying second, it was like he'd been possessed. He hadn't been himself. He'd been a collection of brands. He was a pair of $400 sneakers. He was a $6,000 racket. He had a price tag. He was an object. It was a frightening feeling. It was the feeling of being willing to do anything, sell his body, his spirit, his dignity for those brands. And not just once. If he started down that path, he might never stop. But then he looked again. They were just things. He could live without them. He could wear $30 shoes or $15 ones from a discount store. He could win a match with a $100 racket or even a $20 one from Amazon. In that moment, Leo had felt a profound sense of alienation from his own soul. Congratulations, host, for passing the primary trophy husband test. You have not lost yourself in the world of materialism. An outstanding trophy husband is not easily swayed by temptation. An outstanding trophy husband has dignity. He accepts support with his head held high, because he is worthy of the best. For passing this initial trial, host is awarded a mid-tier permanent item. Buff, Unshakable Core, Permanent. Buff, Unshakable Core, Permanent, will strengthen the host's resolve on his chosen path and allow him to more easily resist temptation. As a side effect, it increases the favorability of those around you by +1. He felt his heartbeat steady, a sense of calm washing over him. The frantic, intoxicating feeling of superiority vanished. Looking down at the shoes on his feet and the racket in his hand, he felt fine. The manic energy was gone, replaced by a quiet confidence. All right, system, he thought. So that's the game we're playing now? His mind suddenly felt sharp, clear. You think that was a hard test? You could throw that at any college student and they'd pass. Try me with a real test next time. Maybe a hot girl. He couldn't help but ask, a little hopefully, is it okay if I don't resist seduction? He'd been single for a long time. He was 21. He had needs. System. The system remained silent, but he could feel its judgment. You know nothing, young one. You have youth, and that is all. You have no technique. You wouldn't last 30 seconds. The host requires more training, lest he spend the rest of his life cringing at the memory. Leo scoffed internally. I don't believe you. Give me a shot. I could last at least 2 minutes. Back in the dorm, a new timer appeared. 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Learn to dress well. Good-looking people have all the luck. Host has successfully completed the pet care task, earning the sincere gratitude of both pet and owner. Reward. Basic style sense buff, 1 day. Learn the fundamentals of fashion to improve appearance by at least 20% and charisma by 30%. Elevate the host from a cute nobody to a cute background character. Whoa, his appearance was already a 7 out of 10. With a boost like that, he might become the new heartthrob of the computer science department. The thought was almost stressful. He had that lecture to attend tonight. He didn't want to be mobbed. Sean and Jordan were still in the room. Jordan, who had been napping when he left, shot up when he saw Leo. Dude, I got him. Found a reliable reseller who only charged me $100 over retail. Did your sister get hers from the official site? Before Leo could even put the racket down and invent a backstory for his sister, Jordan shrieked again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Is it the St. Laurent collab racket? Let me guess, your sister again? Does she need another brother? Nope, Leo said, deciding the truth was easier. Played a match against Paige Kennedy from the Honors College. She lost, so she gave me the racket as a prize. Paige? You mean the one who used to mop the floor with you and make you chase balls until your back gave out? Her? She actually lost, Jordan said, wiggling his eyebrows suggestively. Leo remembered Jordan telling him ages ago that Paige had a crush on him. He hadn't believed it then. Now he was starting to think Jordan, the resident gossip king and confidant to half the girls in their major, had terrifyingly accurate intuition. Jordan, Leo said, changing the subject. You always said you wanted a golden retriever. Tomorrow, I'll take you to pet one. An hour, free of charge. Paige's dog? So she gave you the racket and the dog? Is it official? Jordan's eyes lit up. Leo held up the key with the ugly doll keychain. It's official. I'm a professionally employed dog walker. $30 an hour. Jordan and Sean just stared at him, their expressions frozen. Leo burst out laughing. A few days ago, he might have been embarrassed. College students have this weird complex about money. They're broke, but they pretend to be above it all, as if putting a price on anything sullies its purity. But with his new Unshakable Core buff, Leo felt perfectly calm. A financial transaction was clean. He provided a service. She paid him. It was a healthy, sustainable relationship. Come on, let's hit the showers, he said. Jordan, who always smelled faintly of cologne, had already showered. Sean, on the other hand, was starting to get a little ripe. Leo practically had to drag him. Their dorm was basic. No private bathrooms like the ones in the Honors College. They had a communal shower room, but it was usually crowded. Most of the time, they just washed up in the utility room at the end of the hall, using a bucket of water. Thanks to Sean, they always had hot water. He used an immersion heater to fill up everyone's thermoses. Showering for guys was a quick, no-frills affair, Jordan excluded. Strip down to your boxers, get wet, slap on some shampoo, rub a bar of soap everywhere, rinse, and then towel off. The efficient ones would wring out their towel. The lazy ones wouldn't, which is why their towels always smelled funky. Leo washed up quickly. Standing there naked, he felt like his roommates were staring at him. It had to be that +1 favorability effect. It was kind of creepy. He finished in record time. Sean was even faster. But in the brief moment his eyes weren't full of soap, Leo noticed that Sean's boxers were ripped. Not in the front, but in the back. A big hole over his left, but cheek, worn thin from sitting too much. After showering, they made a mad dash back to the dorm to get dressed. It was easier than trying to keep your clothes dry in the damp utility room. Around dusk, the hallway was often a blur of naked guys sprinting back and forth. It was normal. Back in the room, Leo opened his closet and paused. He stared at its contents in silence. A bright red t-shirt, a neon green shirt with a corporate logo, a button-down with a loud palm tree pattern. I wore these, he thought in horror. No wonder he was still single. He'd look in the mirror and think he was decent looking, but his wardrobe was actively sabotaging him. A 70 out of 100 in looks became a 50 out of 100 once he put on this garbage. He started by throwing out a pair of old underwear with a hole in it. You never know when you might get an opportunity to show off your underwear to a girl, or a sister, or an auntie. A man has to be prepared. Then, he ruthlessly purged the rest of his closet, tossing the garish shirts and shorts, and anything made of that stiff, cheap fabric where the screen-printed design was peeling off. You don't have to wear designer brands, but you should at least look clean and put together. With the buff still active, he arranged the remaining clothes into outfits. It was easy. There wasn't much left. Looking back, the only one in their dorm with any real fashion sense was Alex. Alex was well-rounded, no real weaknesses. It was no wonder he was never single. Jordan was fashionable too, but he always took it a little too far. After cleaning up, Leo felt great. He grabbed his phone and roped Jordan into a game of League. They lost 1-19. Ugh, run it back. He had the memory buff. He could anticipate plays better than ever. But his fingers just couldn't keep up. Hand speed was critical for a young man. Leo, I'm going to derank if we play again. Jordan whined. Your luck is garbage today. Lucky in love, unlucky in games. I'm out. Leo started another game by himself. He lost again. He tossed his phone aside just as Sean came back from doing laundry. He'd washed Leo's clothes and socks along with his own. Not his underwear, thankfully. Thanks, Sean. I'll hang them up, Leo said, getting up to wash his own underwear. Sean didn't object. He did stuff like this for everyone, and they were usually good about returning the favor, especially Leo. Sean sat down at his desk, his mind still on his TikTok analytics. He'd forced himself to go an hour without looking. As he cleaned his glasses on the hem of his shirt, he refreshed the page. And then he saw it, a graph showing a single, vertical red line, shooting straight up like a rocket.